Traveling the Vortex.
We joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed at episode number 72. Two wrongs don't make a left turn, and absence makes the nose grow longer. I'm Keith.
Time and tide melt the snowman. I'm Sean.
Oh, I had one too. Waste Nick, want Nick. I'm Glenn.
How was your guys' week?
Good.
Hopefully all the moms out there had a good Mother's Day.
Today is Mother's Day,
Today's
so
Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to any moms that listen to the show. As we record this, it is still Mother's Day.
By the time you hear this, it'll be belated Mother's Day.
Yes.
But that's because we have moved our studio to an asteroid far, far away, and the sound waves take that long to reach your ears.
Did Holly have a good Mother's Day?
She did. She had real good. I mean, she didn't do much today. We took her and my
this
mother.
was a big weekend for her.
Yeah, well, that's just it. We took her and my mother-in-law to brunch this morning.
Where'd you go?
Golden Corral. It was like the
Busy.
breakfast. Yeah, well, no, it wasn't bad. The breakfast dinner crossover. So they pretty much went and had scrambled eggs, bacon, sausage, waffles,
Steak.
toast, and pork chops. And then I turned around and went back up there and had steak and green beans and
It was almost
broccoli,
Brenner.
I think. Yeah, I mean, I literally went up and had lunch. So that was good. No, that's all we did today. Went over to my mom's this afternoon, took her a bouquet of flowers and visited with her. But yeah, for Holly's birthday, what did we do? We went to. Oh, we took the kids to get their pictures taken in the morning. That was Saturday. Her birthday was actually on Friday, but because I worked. And then we took her to lunch at her favorite restaurant, which is Casa. And then kids went home, took a nap. Well, one of them took a nap. Holly took a nap, too. Then we took her to Pizza Hut for dinner, and then took her to Orange Leaf for dessert. That was kind of her birthday day.
Very cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Did Mel have a good Mother's Day?
She did. We didn't do much. We went out. We also went out for breakfast this morning. We went to the Capitol Plaza Hotel. It was a fantastic buffet, and it was busy. We waited, 45 minutes for a table this morning.
Oh, really?
It was horrible, but I mean, understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic omelets. Ate too much. And then we kind of came back and we watched a couple movies and played some video games. And she just determined, she says, I don't want to do anything. I was like, okay. I'm on board with that because I had finals this week. So this was my busy week.
Oh, yeah.
I've been dragging.
Everything go all right?
As far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I got one A for sure. I probably won't find out till Monday about the other ones. But
Cool.
I didn't hear the hangman coming. So
That's always
You
good.
felt pretty good about it.
I felt pretty good about them. Now, the midterms, not so much. But the finals, yeah, I was okay with the final projects. So,
Keith, did you do anything for your mom?
Yeah. Sarah and I went with her to lunch to the Longhorn Steakhouse, which was really busy also. And then we went to see the Pirates Abandoned Misfits.
Oh, yeah. How was it?
It was really good.
Was it?
It was very cute. A lot of fun.
Similar to the book?
A lot of good laughs. They changed it. There was a lot of elements from the book, but they changed it so it wasn't a direct adaptation, which I'm okay with because the author wrote the screenplay.
Oh, okay.
So I was fine with that. David Tennant did a fantastic job in it. He plays Charles Darwin. And I forgot it was David Tennant after a while because it's such a different portrayal of acting that I'm used to seeing David Tennant do. And it also featured Brian Blessed, so that's classic and new Who together. And Martin Freeman was in it, which I didn't realize. And I would highly recommend it. It's fun. It's not deep, but it does have a lot of heart, which unfortunately has to be said for kids' movies these days. Cool. And then we went over to Sarah's mom's for dinner. So
I'm actually torn. My mom decided she didn't want to go out and mess with the crowds today, so we're going to get together and do something in the middle of next week. and talked about going to a movie. And she says, "Well, you pick the movie." And so I got on and I looked at the listings, and really, there's not much out right now. There's
You go see Dark Shadows.
There's one really, really, really big movie, and a whole bunch of not so much. And so I mentioned it to her, and she's like, "Well, yeah, I'll go see the Avengers." But she hasn't seen any of the other films.
I don't think you have to. I think it's
I think she has to see Thor at the very least.
I don't. I think it's entirely. It adds so much. It immensely added so much more to it, having all the lead-up films. However, stepping back and looking at it, it's such a fun, funny, enjoyable film that I don't think you have to have any of the background
so?
because they really kind of step you through it.
They do kind of rehash
that
some of the same stuff.
You do realize that Loki is Thor's brother. You do realize. I mean, they
The only
add
thing
some
you
other
might want to
things in
explain to her about Cap is he was frozen. And
they see him. You see them chipping him out of the ice.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, well, she would get
It's sort of
Cap
laid out.
and Hulk and
really, Iron Man doesn't need an introduction. He's it's enough there.
who's the other hero? God, Captain America,
Thor,
Incredible Hulk,
Incredible Hulk, Iron Man,
and then I guess the other two,
Hawkeye,
yeah.
Black Widow.
But yeah, I mean,
The two that didn't need to be in it.
I don't know if she knows anything
Actually,
about Iron Man, but
Hawkeye didn't really.
Hawkeye was awesome.
Yeah, he was kind of worthless.
He was not. I mean, he was a bad guy through most of it.
Yeah, he was
Spoilers.
pretty worthless. But then it happens right off the bat. So fortunately,
Yeah. Which, speaking of which, Avengers topped
That's right.
1 billion this weekend.
billion worldwide.
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 And it
300 and something U.S.
It only dropped 50%. Which is
It's also set a
second
record.
highest.
It
I
set a
think.
record this week for the first time a film has still made $100 million or more its second week out.
Yeah.
Not even Avatar did that. So
Oh wow.
I mean, Avatar was like 95 something. million.
Close. But
It was close, but Avengers was still.
I think Avengers is benefiting from word of mouth still and from repeat viewers as well. I
Oh,
think there's
yeah,
a lot
I
of
think
people
so,
that went
too.
first weekend that went again this weekend. I'm certain of that.
Yeah.
Well, in the next couple of weekends, I hope to bolster that money a little bit. And
Yeah,
go see it again.
me too. I've tried to go for a third time here in about a week. So, well, good.
What we got going on in the news?
Well, Keith, you got a little bit of information about
Well-
Karen and Arthur.
Karen and Arthur tweeted out, I believe it was yesterday, that they wrapped their filming. They're done with Doctor Who now.
Officially done.
Officially
shooting.
done. Kind of sad, but we knew it was coming. So, and that's it. Other than Doctor Who is still not on. I'm stealing Sean's
Still not a
news.
lot of news going on, but you know what? And part of it's because we've still got like weeks until weeks and weeks and weeks and
Months.
weeks. Although Moffat did kind of let
That was the piece
Yeah.
of news I think I had seen.
Moffat kind of let
Well, he teased.
a little bit of information out of the bag by saying that he's going to screen at what was the event he's screening at in August, late August. He's going to screen the first
Oh yeah, the pilot,
episode,
or
the pilot,
yeah,
or
not the pilot,
season
season
one.
premiere.
season 1 premiere.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, so
Something in Edinburgh.
some are then speculating that if it's on par with other screenings, they're usually 2 weeks out before
Ooh.
the launch. So
It was
I
late
think I saw
August, though, wasn't it?
I think I saw 25th and 26th is when the
Yeah.
that
So that still
event
puts us
is.
squarely in September.
And so it puts us, probably second week in September. So
Which is what we had surmised.
Yeah.
yeah, we sort of
Well, I
said
mean,
that.
knowing-
that was what we were
When
speculating on.
what
anyway.
episode the Christmas special would land on
Right.
kind of helps us set
Right.
that date.
Kind of backtracked that, didn't we?
And I know he mentioned in an interview that we won't expect Louise Coleman's backstory.
Oh yeah.
That
Her
always-
companion will be a surprise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Granted,
and
we don't know what it's
something-
going to be, so it's going to be a surprise
Yeah.
anyway. So.
I didn't want. I was going to talk about it this week, and I think I'm going to push it off till next week. But I had kind of some questions for you guys about what we think the surprise will be, and I had some speculation that I wanted.
I don't
to
think I read the full
throw
article,
out
so I
there,
better
but
go find it.
I'm going to wait another week because I think I'll put that out to the listeners too. If what kind of surprise do you think Peter Moffat's talking about with Stephen Moffat, not Peter. Stephen Moffat is talking about. Well, Peter might have talked about it too.
But he wouldn't know what he'd be talking about.
So what sort of surprise do you think we are entailed? Because it sounds like it's something that, from the way I understand, it's something that fans will be excited about, and it's something that has never kind of been done in this way with a companion before. So leaves it kind of way open.
I wonder if he means with a companion in the new series or old series.
I got the impression it was from both. Maybe not. I don't know.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, so maybe our feedbackers will chime in.
We would love to hear it.
Speaking of feedback.
Feedback.
Feedback! We've got feedback! I warned you I was going to do Nixon this week! Ah! Nixon's angry in my universe.
Yeah.
He's always
So,
angry.
that's angry Nixon. Wow.
Our first bit of feedback comes in via Twitter. Derek tweeted us, question for the podcast, favorite DVD or Blu-ray extras on Doctor Who DVDs?
There are extras on Doctor Who DVDs? Why didn't somebody tell me?
One of my I'll just throw mine out there. Mine's a favorite. Is the is it called 7-Year Itch? 7-Year. What is it? The
Hitch.
Hitch.
The 7-Year Hitch, yeah.
I like that documentary.
I honestly haven't watched
That's
the whole
on the
lot.
movie Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Was that the one that talked about the wilderness years?
Well, I think there were two of
Or
them.
there was a separate, you're right, there was a separate one.
7-Year Hitch was the one that
The 7
talked
years of
about
making
how,
the movie.
Seagal worked on getting the film made.
There is a separate one on the wilderness years.
Yeah. Which was interesting as well, but I liked 7 Years. I liked all of the extras in that, even though some
I
of them
remember
were,
watching some of them with you guys.
well,
when
some
we
of them
watched
are
it.
even like rehashes from like Fox stuff, Fox behind the scene interviews and stuff. But I like that as well.
Keith?
I haven't watched a whole lot of bonus features. I do like the Night and the Doctor stuff from Series 6. But that's bonus features, but it's not because it's additional scenes and you kind of enter gray areas there. I guess I should tell have I told the Christmas Carol story? The fact that I had Night at the Proms, and I think I told this before, yeah. Mm-hmm. That would be a favorite of mine if I still had the Christmas Carol.
Because did you rent Christmas Carol recently
just to watch it? Yeah.
Night of the Proms.
Sean?
I'm going to have to claim ignorance. There really is. I've not. I'm this weird dichotomy. I love bonus features. I buy DVDs that are the 2-disc special editions because I want all of the making of and commentary and behind the scenes junk I can possibly get my hands on. And very, very rarely do I ever sit down and watch them. So I really, other than the ones that we went through on Doctor Who the movie, which that one we actually hit that DVD fairly in depth when we bought it, and we were so jazzed about it. But I really haven't watched much on the Who sets.
Well, and Glenn, you didn't talk about on show, which you lamented that you didn't. So here's your chance for the Sylvester McCoy Dalek story. Or not Dalek, Cyberman story.
It was, Silver. Well, no, I enjoyed that. Actually, I didn't think the documentary itself was spectacular, but it let some information in on sort of the writing of the background of writing the story.
Yeah.
That kind of made me appreciate the episode even more after I watched it, and it talked a little bit about. Didn't I talk about this on?
I don't think you did.
An episode, you and I talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the guy that wrote it, actually, when he wrote this, he wrote
it was, for those who don't know, Silver Nemesis.
Yeah, Silver Nemesis. He wrote Silver Nemesis with the concept that they were going to get dark and ambiguous, and the idea was to sort of, what I want to say, insinuate that perhaps the Doctor was God, and that Lady Fancy Pants was Satan, and that there was this eternal battle going on. And Well, they of course told him to tone it down a little bit. And if they had gone that far with it and said, yeah, this is what it is definitively, I would have hated that.
Oh, yeah.
But knowing that that's where they came from, and they were kind of skirting around this darkness of the character, I thought that was really interesting. And coming from that perspective and seeing how they worked around that, and they were very, skirting the I can't even, it's been so long now. I wish I'd have talked about this sooner. I've seen it, but there are some lines in there. In fact, I think it's when Lady Fancy Pants says, "Don't you know who he is?" to Ace, and she then later asks again later, and he doesn't really definitively answer the question. So
I think that's a good. That's what bonus features should do, is make you appreciate whatever the bonus features are on more. They
shouldn't add to the story or plot line. That's a big no if you ask me. But they shouldn't add to the story or the plot line, because if it's not in the body of work, then it doesn't belong there. Yeah. But yes, they should make you appreciate or depreciate a story for its value as well. No, I agree, Keith. I just remembered another one. There's actually a spoof on Pyramids of Mars called Oh Mummy. And it's a spoof look at Sutek's career after Pyramids of Mars. And it's done from a perspective of he's like, Sutek's actually in character for this documentary. It's actually a lot of fun if you ever get to check it out. But I remembered that as I was sitting there. I just couldn't remember the name of it, so...
What was the other one that Earthshock had the... although that was a no-no because that would have been a fifth episode.
That was an Easter egg.
Yeah, that was an Easter egg. It wasn't a serious fifth episode.
I guess there's an Easter egg on... is it Mark of the Rani?
Or Time?
No, it is Time. I think it's Time of the Rani that somebody's done a regeneration... They show regeneration scene, and they've actually kind of composed Colin Baker with his permissions... face in there,
nice.
But they didn't add it as a special edition type thing. So.
I apologize. That's a rather lackluster answer for a very good, interesting question. And one of these days, when we run out of who to review, we'll go back and we'll start reviewing DVDs, and then we'll.
It's one of those things of we do Friday Night Who. Mm-hmm. It's 2:00 by the time we finish, and we're kind of ready for bed at that point.
Well, and unless I own the disc, I rarely ever have seen any of the extras, because that's what I'll do is if I buy a disc, which I don't have a lot of them. If I buy a disc, I'll go through and watch the extras.
I went back to look at some of the extras at Time Meddler because I enjoyed the story so much, and just looking at the titles, I was like, there's nothing here I want to watch.
Sometimes you got to watch them, though, because sometimes the titles are real deceptive. I've done ones and go, that kind of looks boring. Then I'll watch it. It's actually pretty decent.
Okay, I'll have to pop it in.
Any time that they have a bunch of guys that worked on the show, no matter in what capacity, sitting around talking about the particular episode, I always find them fascinating. And there's some that I go, Face of Evil, however, was one of the driest and most boring behind-the-scenes documentaries that I've ever seen. So I wouldn't recommend that one. But
I take that back. I did watch one on the behind-the-scenes special effects for Invisible Enemy. And they went in very much in depth about working on, the horrible, horrible set conditions that the BBC had for the studio. That they were kind of, we've always heard about the poor production value of Doctor Who, which I think we've kind of poked some holes in that because we're always impressed with the production value for the most part. Some of the special effects may be lacking, but they put a lot of effort into what they had. But they talk a lot about, the facilities that they were working in, and it was a fun documentary.
I watched it too, and I borrowed it from you.
And was it Face of Evil or the one after where it was kind of a Leela retrospective, where Louise Jameson came back on? Was it Robots of Death?
Was it Robots? I thought it was Face.
I found that. I didn't watch all of it because spoilers, but I found that very enjoyable. I like you said, anytime somebody who worked on it, especially an actor, comes back and talks about their time on it, I think is always interesting.
You know what I've always liked? Every once in a while, they'll do a companion thing where they do the wardrobes of the actresses.
You're right, it was Face of Evil.
And I've seen Lala Ward. I've seen hers. I've seen the one that they did for, I want to say, Sarah Jane. And there was one other one, maybe Tegan. I don't remember what discs any of these are on. But you wouldn't think from a guy perspective you would enjoy something like that. But it's actually, they're kind of interesting because they get the costume designers often. And they'll talk about where they went for these particular looks. And because they really do in their entire stretch. So Sarah Jane is from
nice.
her first Pertwee episode, which was not Invasion of Time Warrior, to Hand of Fear. Yeah. You get like pieces of them, so it's kind of entertaining to just watch and see her evolution and her costuming evolution.
When you watched one on
Those are fun.
the Cybermen, which one was that on? It was like going all the way back to...
Oh, I don't remember.
It was one of the later ones, which I thought was interesting, that it was on one of the... When we did... It was either Silver Nemesis or Attack of the Cybermen.
It had to be Attack of the Cybermen. I didn't watch any.
But they had this complete retrospective of the Cybermen, and they went back and they talked about a lot about the design and the costume designers of how we changed them from episode to episode to episode, and what the piping and stuff was done out of, and how much they hated it, so we changed it to this. And that one was pretty good.
Well, and Dr. Phil has mentioned...
It was so good, I just now thought of it,
Mentioned the one retrospective about the doctor's outfit that I don't think we own.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't think we do own.
So we can't go back and watch that one, but Dr. Phil highly recommends that one. And as far as also his new series, The Monster Files, at least I've watched all of them on almost all of them on Series 6, and they're quite entertaining. I mean, especially the Cybermats. And they talk to Gareth Roberts about why he wanted to bring the Cybermats back and why the changes were made the way they were and how they work. And those are pretty interesting, too.
Well, speaking of Dr. Phil, and speaking of special documentaries on Doctor Who DVDs, he's going to talk a little bit in a little bit of feedback about one himself. So take it away, Phil.
Greetings, gentlemen. It's Dr. Phil here. Just wanting to say hello. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there in the Vortex maelstrom. You might even call it a helix, like the Mandragora helix. Anyway, just wanted to send in a little brief feedback unrelated to the other musical ones I sent in this week. You're going to have your fill of me this week. Sorry for the pun. That's definitely grown worthy. But there was an interesting subject you guys came up with recently discussing racism in Doctor Who, and one thing I wanted to point you in the direction of is, while it's not on a DVD, say like Talons of Wing Chiang, the Pertwee story, The Mutants, has a Gurrier Brothers documentary called Race Against Time, discussing the issues of race politics in the UK as it pertains to productions of television, most notably Doctor Who, but of many other programs as well. And I think we often forget, being over here in the States, is how much ethnic, religious, and other troubles they have over in Europe, quite a lot recently, with immigration into the UK, the Dutch having lots of anti-Middle Eastern and anti-Muslim legislation and such. So it's probably just as touchy over there as it is over here. The difference is while we tend to look at it over here as a lot more being less based on culture and more on skin color, is that Germany is very different culturally and ethnically from Poland, from Scandinavian countries like Finland, and so I think it's a really nice documentary that I really recommend everyone who listens to the show to check out, because it's a very thought-provoking look into how race relations has affected casting in Doctor Who. And you look at very, very few main characters. You look at Toberman and Tomb of the Cybermen, and you look at Enlightenment. You don't have a lot of main characters that are anything other than white in Doctor Who until really the Sylvester McCoy era. A little bit in Colin Baker's time, but it's really quite an interesting look into a layer of Doctor Who that I hadn't thought about much, and I really enjoy when To Entertain, now BBC Worldwide again, puts in their DVD releases. So anyway, keep up the great work as always, guys. Always a great listen, and guess what? Check it off on your achievements. I'm in my car again. No, don't worry, I'm not dead yet. We're not dead yet. He's dead.
Thanks, Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
I'm curious at how many of those achievements you have now.
Wait, this just in. More achievements are coming.
Ooh.
Do the achievements stack?
Sure.
So he could have 7 of that one achievement?
Oh, no.
Oh, no,
You only get the
not
achievement
stack
one
like that.
time.
Once
Yeah.
you have it, you have it.
Oh, okay.
But every listener that hasn't listened to one and they hear Dr. Phil
Oh,
in the car,
yeah.
they get achievements.
That's true.
See, yeah, that's...
Yeah.
So.
That's a very interesting documentary, Phil.
Yeah.
We
haven't seen it yet, but
but we do have a copy of the
yeah,
game.
We do have
so
found
that. We haven't. We're
when we
gonna
get around to watching that one, we'll have to pop it in and
take a
watch
look
the
at it.
I was
bonus
excited
feature.
to see Noel Clark,
Yeah, Noel Clark there narrating.
Mickey
Very
the
good.
Idiot. I feel bad calling him Mickey the Idiot, but that's how I will always refer to Mickey.
Well,
Did you
that's what
see
he
the
is in
picture
their
he
thing, so.
tweeted? I don't know when, but it was him and Freema were hanging out somewhere, and he tweeted a picture of the two of them.
I didn't see
And
that one.
he put me and Freema. Oh, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Smith Jones or Jones Smith.
All right, well, let's get into more feedback.
Our next bit comes from Mark Lee. He says, "Hey guys, long time no feedback.
Hi, Mark.
My life has been a roller coaster lately, so catching up on traveling the Vortex has been rather difficult. But nonetheless, I managed to catch up eventually. So, what have I missed? The Avengers, Matt Smith's poetry, 1.5 hour reply to one piece of feedback, a gravy boat, and 2 bowls at Christmas, 6-year anniversary, sleep deprivation, and heffalumps. Damn, I missed you guys. Oh, and when I'm writing this feedback, I've just got back from watching The Avengers with Alex and the rest of the gang. So if I sound like a fanboy during this feedback, it's because the inner comic book nerd inside of me is dancing around dancing around the dining room. I was with Alex and another fan of Traveling the Vortex, Luke, on the way home. And Alex brought up the interesting point that a Justice League movie wouldn't work anywhere near as well as The Avengers, because The Dark Knight has been filmed in a certain way that wouldn't work to have Superman running around in a pair of tights. So it made me wonder, would you guys like a Justice League movie?
I think if you did a Justice League movie, you'd have to do it sans Batman.
Or a completely different Batman? And establish that this is not the same Batman.
Yes, absolutely. I'm
wouldn't
hands
fly,
down
wouldn't
in
work.
favor of a Justice League movie.
I'm not.
However,
But you can't do Justice League without Batman.
you can't do Justice League in the Christopher Nolan universe.
See, and if you're not, if you do it now, then you're just rebooting Batman, and I don't want to see
It's
that.
not going to be.
again.
It's not going to be long till they reboot it again.
Well, I'm sure it won't, but I'm totally disgusted with the idea of the fact that they would reboot it again anyway. So I
course
think
they'll reboot
they
it
need to
again.
leave it alone.
We were disgusted with the idea that they reboot Spider-Man, but the new movie looks good.
No, actually, it doesn't look good, but it makes me intrigued to go see it.
That's all it takes, man. That's all it takes.
Here's the deal. If you want to do a Justice League movie, you can have Batman in it. It just won't be Christopher Nolan's Batman. It'll just be a Batman. And I'm fine
Let's bring
with that.
back Val Kilmer.
I don't think you need a whole series of new reintroduction movies in order for this particular superhero to fit in their own little particular niche before you bring them together. For the Avengers, yes, it was necessary for Marvel's universe to set all that up.
Because none of them existed before this.
Exactly.
On film.
But you know,
a couple of them did come out well.
it's kind of like the new Superman movie. We don't need another origin story. Unless you are personally an alien living on another planet, you know that Superman's not from around here. I don't need to see that story again. Shot one, scene one. Metropolis. Whoosh. Okay, I'm with you. You were set. He just needs to show up.
I
And
don't
if
think
you
you
do
need it for Batman either.
If you just do a Justice League
They
movie,
didn't do it in Batman.
Batman
They
shows
took a
up.
different approach.
He's
to it.
part
we
of
got
it.
the, we got the quick flashbacks of how
yeah.
his parents.
But
went
it
through
it's still an origin story, and I don't think you need to do
The first half
another
of the
origin
film
story for
is,
Batman.
yeah.
I think if you do a Justice League movie, it's just Batman shows up and he's there and he's part of the team, and or he's brought in as or he forces his way in. However you want to set it up,
I don't want
that part I'm fine with.
I don't want to see it happen at all because of the fact that Nolan's universe has blown it all out of the water. I don't want to see a different Batman. That's just silly on film.
George
And
Clooney?
I think once you start once you start putting we're getting a new Superman next year.
Yeah.
Getting Man of Steel, and like you said, it's an origin story. We've got the Green Lantern out there, but technically he wasn't a founding member. Well, he was of the Justice Society, I suppose. I
Well,
don't think it'll work. I think DC
Captain America wasn't a founding
DC
member of Avengers.
That's true.
Well, no, you're right. He
It was
wasn't
like
a founding
six issues in. They
member. It
found
wasn't even
him.
6.
And
It was like 4.
they
But
found him
yes,
and uncovered
no,
him.
absolutely. But no, I don't want to see a Justice League movie at all. I don't think they could do it. I don't think they could do it right. I don't think they could do it. I mean, Avengers has already set the bar so high that once you put a Justice League movie out there, it would look almost as silly as Green Lantern looked last year against Thor and Captain America and Iron Man and all those. While I enjoyed Green Lantern, it looked silly against everything else. So I don't think it'll work.
I don't know. It just maybe it depends on the villain because obviously really heroes are only as good as their villains, and they came up with a fantastic reason for the Marvel heroes to band together. The DC group, I don't know, has anybody that impressive that they could go up against, other than Darkseid.
But they would
That's
also
the only way you could do it.
They would also need to introduce
But see,
somehow. I think
that's
the
one of
other
those-
members of the Justice
Well, that's
League
just it. I mean,
separately.
now I would be totally for a Wonder Woman movie, a Flash movie, possibly another Green Lantern movie or something before you do that. But I don't think
No
you need another
Aquaman,
standalone
please.
Batman in order to do this.
I don't think so.
But
I agree
if
with
we're going to do Darkseid, then I do think we need at least 2 Superman movies
I
before we
would
jump
agree.
into that.
Yeah,
That one I think we
Darkseid
do need
is
to have
the
some
Superman
setup.
villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay. So there's that.
He goes on to say,
So say we all.
Although Darkseid's always remind me of Thanos from the Marvel Universe. They're kind of
Yeah.
the same. A little bit.
I'm trying my best to talk about Doctor Who here, but my inner comic book nerd won't let me. So, who are your favorite and least favorite members of the Avengers? My favorite Avenger is Captain America. My least favorite is Hawkeye. My least favorite may have been Black Widow, but she's at an advantage because she has boobs. But seriously, do we need Hawkeye? All he did was let himself get, spoilers, hypnotized and fire a few arrows.
That all happens in the beginning.
Well, he doesn't fire the arrows in the beginning.
Oh,
He fired some arrows in the beginning of the movie.
Why couldn't we have had Ant-Man? Because Alan Tudyk was busy.
Here's my theory on Ant-Man. Is they picked the heroes, and it was really tough to fit Captain America in there. But they picked the heroes that were the more down-to-earth, the things that your mainstream people would go with. When
And
you throw
it's the
somebody
more
in with
iconic
now,
team.
Ant-Man is a very cool comic book hero. Don't get me wrong. I liked him in the comic books.
I really hope
However,
Edgar Wright's version
you
will fit into the
can't
universe.
you can't sell Ant-Man to the to the mainstream movie-going public that aren't used to it. Now, you could probably add Ant-Man later and do an Ant-Man movie because you've got everybody kind of acclimated to the Avengers.
Now after Thor.
But you couldn't have put Ant-Man in the first movie. It just wouldn't have worked.
As far as...
The only thing I missed about Hawkeye is he didn't have his purple. I wanted something purple about him.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
didn't have to have the mask or the goofy outfit that he has, but like he at least needed like I don't know, a bandolier or something, just something across his chest that was purple. I mean, just
Yeah, that's
didn't
true.
work for me. But,
I've got to kind of agree with you. I think my favorite's Iron Man.
Mine too.
Out of the
Although
bunch.
in this, Hulk is pretty
saying,
high up
this
there.
Hulk's really high up.
It'd be a tie because they are both so fantastic.
I felt bad for
my
both
favorite
Hawkeye
Avenger
and
has
Black
always
Widow.
been Spider-Man. So it's true. There's a whole plethora of Marvel heroes
yes,
that are
I know,
Avengers.
yes, I know.
They're not
I
maybe not
understand
founding
that.
members,
It's a
but they've
rotating
been
group
around.
of people
Yeah, it's
that are
rotating.
Avengers.
My favorite Avenger is Spider-Man. But in the movie,
Which Spider-Man though? Is it like the
which Spider-Man? Peter Parker?
Spider-Man? Well, which suit?
Will be the original suit.
Oh, okay. I really like the suit from Civil War.
Well, we're not talking about suit Spider-Man.
But he
They're
was
all
a part of
Peter
the
Parker
Avengers in
Spider-Man.
Civil War
Sure
in
he
that
was,
suit.
but-
You guys have ranged so far off my track
Like Iron
of what I'm
Spider
able
or
to talk
something.
about.
Iron Spider? I
Something
didn't
like
read
that.
Civil War.
Because it's a suit designed by Tony.
I'm talking about Spider-Man. Not symbiotic suit Spider-Man, not...
I felt bad for Black Widow.
Why?
That whole fantastic scene where they're fighting the stuff and she's out there blam 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 and it's like
This is not her forte.
I mean, no offense.
She's a spy.
You're just an assassin, okay? And you're very good. I mean, if this was a Bond movie, you'd be the guy that we didn't want to go up against until the very end of the movie. If this was a Bourne movie, you'd be the guy that they were probably running away from. But this is an Avengers movie, and you've got Captain America on your right and Iron Man on your left. Your little pistols really are not.
Although I felt Captain America was a little weak in the fights.
Yeah, really
compared to everybody
he was
else.
Strategist.
He was,
Well, yeah, he was.
He was being the leader. He was being the captain. But
That's what he needed.
Which once they established that's what he was doing, I was fine.
Here's the thing with Black Widow, though. We're going to get into the discussion of the Avengers, and we're going to get way off topic here. But here's the thing about Black Widow is she's put in that position, and you realize how weak and how ineffective she is. And that's the beauty of it, is then what does she do? She's the one that gets up there and shuts the damn thing off.
Yes.
That's what's cool.
Yeah.
Because she does the, I'll get a ride. That's when she becomes really awesome.
Yeah.
Is when Cap throws her up, she grabs the guy, drives that thing up there to the top of Stark's Tower. That's when she became really cool again. Because she's really awesome in her role up until the battle, because she's she's getting the information. She's got that really cool scene in there where she's being interrogated, and all along she's got things under control. And there's another point where she's being interrogated. And she's we're going to spoil the heck out of this. It's 2 weeks in. If you haven't seen it, Sean, I'm sorry. Spoilers.
When she loses it is when the Hulk shows up on the ship.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So she's really cool in those little parts, and then she's perfect in her own character, in her own realm. It's not until that one moment when she's goes to shut that thing off. That's when you go, yeah, she does belong here.
And I will argue that for the same reason on Hawkeye's part, because again, he doesn't have superpowers. He's really, really good.
Hawkeye was pretty worthless in this.
With a bow and arrow.
He was only necessary because he's able to be hypnotized.
Well,
that's
just it. That's what made it good. Is that Joss in the writing of the script, he found something for him to do. He really managed to beef up Hawkeye's character and kind of make him,
and then giving him a reason to go up against Loki.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I thought he was.
It wasn't just having this extra guy around.
Yeah, I thought he was effective in the fights.
Some
of those shots he got.
There. He was least effective there. He got shots. He's an expert marksman. He's a bullseye marksman. He's great. And the one scene with the one arrow that he shoots at Loki was great too.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to spoil it right now. He catches it, and everybody in the audience goes, "Aww," and then it blows up.
The crowd reaction was awesome in that.
Aww.
Yay! I don't know much about Ant-Man.
I don't know. Let's get off the Avengers.
I just know it needs to be played by Alan Tudyk.
Who's Alan Tudyk?
Wash.
Who's Wash? Oh, yeah. No.
Joss,
Oh, that'd be all right.
campaigned so hard to
what?
get
He'd be
Wash
all right.
as Ant-Man.
I'd rather see Nathan Fillion do it.
I think there's something else we could have Nathan Fillion do that would be better than Ant-Man.
What?
I don't know, but I'm sure I'll find it.
He could be Green Lantern.
He would be a fantastic Green
You
Lantern.
can't do that now.
Sure you can. They're going to reboot it anyway.
No, they won't. They'll do a Green Lantern 2, and it'll be Ryan Reynolds. They'll pick up where they left off. So we've got Sinestro running around out there.
Oh, well.
Mark goes on to say, and guys, one last thing I think I need to make something clear. I don't like Marmite.
I don't think we ever thought he did.
No. What?
No, I'm thrown by
convinced he
this.
did.
No.
I think it's foul.
He said long ago that he thought it was horrid, but he kept perpetuating the joke about Marmite. Mark, I remember. These guys have fuzzy memories, but
I do have fuzzy memory.
The memory cheats.
Fuzzy memories with Jack Handy.
But I was walking through my local store, and I found a bag of Marmite Rice Cakes. I couldn't take a picture of them in the store because of the security guard was giving me an odd look. So I bought a packet, just so I could send you guys a picture. And he sent it to us. I haven't even opened them, but they've got an expiration date of the 12th of January, 2013. So they'll probably be stuck in my kitchen till Christmas Day when I trick a drunk relative into trying one of the rice crackers. Read the tagline of the packets if you need any cheering up.
I'm going to read it. It says, Rice Cakes. Rice Cakes will never have to be bland and boring again now that we've baked them with lovely Marmite. Less than 3% fat.
Well, at least they're healthy.
I don't want to go off on a rant here, but, and I apologize to anybody who actually likes rice cakes, could something as non-tasteful as a rice cake be made any worse? And suddenly the answer was yes. I mean, I find things to put on rice cakes. You know, peanut butter. Okay, that'll at least taste like peanut butter and styrofoam. But Marmite and styrofoam, I'm thinking, is not a good combination.
That's worse than Marmite and toast.
Yeah, because with Marmite and toast, you at least have toast. Marmite and rice cakes is just...
Marmite.
Ugh.
He finishes up with, "That's all for now, guys. I'll see you next week. Yours avengingly from Dr. Mark McMarmite."
As always, Mark, it's nice to hear from you, and I hope your life calms down a little bit. And I sense backpedaling. I think he likes Marmite. I think he's trying to lull us into a false sense of security. And then we're going to start getting Marmite in the mail again. It's a U.S. security measure. You know, they talked about the white powder in the envelopes that Congress was getting there for a while. Now it's black tar-like substance dripping from envelopes.
Sean, you want to read Chrissy's?
I can read Chrissy's.
Next up, Chrissy.
Comment question, Dear Vortex Boys. Great job with the Sarah Jane reviews last week. I'll just sum up my thoughts by saying I agree with almost everything you three said, except I have to sneak in here and defend the Mark of the Berserker. That was one I actually enjoyed quite a lot for several reasons. We see so much character growth for Clyde. Up to this point, Clyde has pretty much been the comic relief for Sarah Jane's team, which is a role he fills quite well. But it was wonderful to see his family and how he deals with the sudden reappearance of his dad. We get to see that Clyde isn't the class clown all the time, and that he has things trouble him too. And that what Clyde said to his dad at the end about not needing him anymore was such great character moment, and not something I ever expected a children's TV show to do. As much as I love Sarah Jane, it was fun to see how the kids handle a crisis without her. Like Dr. Light episodes in Doctor Who proper, it's a nice little shake-up of the storytelling they've been doing to this point, which also gives them an excuse to bring back Maria and Alan, which can never be a bad thing. I love stories that have a terrible, threatening villain that you never really see, or it doesn't have to have an actual physical form. So I really liked the idea of the Berserker. I liked the monster in Moonlight and the Mara
Midnight.
for the same reason.
Midnight.
Didn't I say Midnight?
Oh, you said Moonlight.
Moonlight. The monster on Midnight. And the Mara for the same reason. But it was surprising to see it in Sarah Jane Adventures. But it was a nice surprise. Like I said, love the Sarah Jane discussion. Maybe next time you view SJA, I'm sorry. Little comic book. It was just JLA. SJA. My brain tried to translate it and was like, no. Go. Maybe next time you review SJA, I'll actually get in with my thoughts on time. And I don't think... I think
two of the points that she brought up, we agree with.
I agreed with one.
We didn't discuss...
I agreed with the Clyde development.
We loved the Clyde development. We loved the...
We didn't... I didn't mind the Dr. Light, or the Sarah Jane Light aspect of it, because it's, aside from whatever happened, it was different storytelling, like she points out.
Yeah.
You guys gave a lot of love to stuff that I didn't, so...
She must be directing this at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really must.
No, I agree with the Clyde development, and I think that was the only thing I agreed with.
I'm not saying it was a bad story. It was a good story badly told, maybe. I don't know. It was the weakest one of the group. But I liked all of the things that Chrissy said she liked in it. I liked. I agree. So. And
Chrissy, we understand you not getting feedback on time, especially considering the family stuff you had to deal with.
Yeah.
Our condolences are off to your family.
Okay, so we're discussing the Rani this week. If you think the Master is sneaky and clever with all his disguises and mysterious from the shadows evilness, the Rani is the Master times 100. She's kind of like the Lex Luthor of Gallifrey, and she's got a really slick TARDIS. There's a part of me that really hopes she survived the Time War, because it would be really cool to have her back. And she seems like the type to run off and hide until all the fighting was over with, so there's a real possibility of that. That'd be a good discussion question for your next feedback special. What villains from Classic Who would you like to see come back that haven't been in New Who yet? Have you guys talked about that before? If you haven't, save it for later. Oh, that was in parentheses. Maybe I shouldn't have read that out. Okay, oops.
No, that's fine.
All right. Well, start thinking about that, feedbackers, and
Send in your thoughts
we'll deal with that later.
when we get to that.
Yeah, send it in a separate email so that we can
Can save it.
don't include it in the regular feedback. Put a special topic of that one. The Mark of the Rani. This is one of my favorite stories. Not just my favorite Colin Baker story. One of my favorite Doctor Who stories, period. I think the reason I like it so much is that I wasn't expecting to like it when I first saw it, but I was pleasantly surprised at how good it is. Between this story and some of his Big Finish stuff, I really like the Sixth Doctor in historical stories. But there are other elements at work here. The writers seem to be working with the 45-minute format, not just having the Doctor and Perry holed up in the TARDIS for half an episode. They get in on the action a lot quicker than in some of the other Colin Baker stories. Also, I think this is where the Doctor and Perry's relationship is really starting to click together. The interactions between the Rani and the Master are a lot of fun to watch as well. And the 7-year-old girl in me really liked Perry's Disney princess dress. It kind of matched the Doctor's outfit. All in all, this is an entertaining story, one that I think gets underestimated by fandom. Honestly, I think The Mark of the Rani holds up pretty well against some of the more popular classic Who stories, and it deserves a second look. Time in the Rani. This story was fun. I didn't enjoy it as much as I did The Mark of the Rani. I liked watching Sylvester McCoy settle into his role of the Doctor, and it's interesting to see how he starts off as sort of a silly goofball, and later in his run, his personality gets darker. I did like the Rani giving the Doctor amnesia, so he thinks the Rani is Mel, and Mel is the Rani. That was clever. And the Rani pretending to be Mel was funny. The scene where the Doctor remembers Mel is kind of endearing. Not sure what else to say about this story. It's one of those middle-of-the-road stories that I did entirely love it, but I didn't completely hate it. That's it for me. Enjoy the rest of the podcast. Chrissy. P.S. Something way off tangent from 2 weeks ago. You were discussing whether or not heffalumps and woozles were actually canon in the Pooniverse. Well, heffalumps at least were retconned long before the movie. In the animated TV show back in the 90s, there was actually one episode where Pooh, Tigger, and Piglet go camping, and they run into a family of heffalumps. There may have been an episode with woozles somewhere that I haven't seen, but I do know there were heffalumps hanging out in the 100-acre wood.
Well, thanks for clearing that up, Chrissy. I guess I didn't watch the TV show back in the 90s.
I can claim no knowledge of the...
No, that wasn't the live-action one, was it?
I don't know.
No, the live-action one was in the late 80s, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, at the same time as Dumbo Circus. There was a puppet one in the late 90s.
Is that the one where they had the full-size suits?
That's the one I'm thinking of.
No, that was back in the late 80s.
That was late
Really?
80s.
Yeah, maybe
Wow.
early 90s. Yeah, that was on the infancy of Disney Channel, when Disney Channel first launched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like that one.
I didn't like that one either.
Me neither.
It always scared me. Then they had Dumbo Circus, which was the same thing. It was guys dressed up in suits.
I do remember that
I don't
now that you
remember
say
Dumbo
that. I don't
Circus.
remember that was the name of it, but
Yeah,
I
the
remember
Boo and
Dumbo
Circus.
suits. Yeah.
Dumbo
Scary.
Circus. Mm-hmm. That's when I watched Disney Channel.
Theme park characters shouldn't be on TV. They should be in theme parks.
And then only certain ones. Some of them are still creepy in theme parks.
Yeah.
There's a picture of me we were at Six Flags. Can't remember which character they made me pose with, but I looked terrified.
Was it a clown?
I think it was Bugs Bunny, actually. I looked scared. I was posing with Bugs Bunny.
Was he dressed in drag?
No. That's the sad thing about it.
I always thought Bugs was scary when he dressed in drag.
Really?
Dude, not an attractive woman. At all. No.
Apparently Glenn disagrees.
Glenn disagrees.
No, I don't know. I don't know that I feel one way or the other with Bugs Bunny and drag.
I mean, Bugs was a more attractive woman than Elmer was, but, you know.
Oh, well, yes.
Daphne was
doesn't
kind of
take
hot.
much.
All right, our next bit of feedback comes from Holly. We've gone in a very dark place. Hey guys, loved your recap of Series 2 of the Sarah Jane Adventures and what you thought of the Avengers movie. Going to see it next weekend with a bunch of my college buddies who are coming into town, and something tells me we're not going to be disappointed. I'm also done with the Shada ebook. I'm loving it, and I'm kind of dragging my heels at... Wait a minute. She said she's done, and then
She's almost done.
Almost
I
done.
got you. Okay. I said also, didn't I? Okay.
Yes, you did.
That makes sense now. I'm going, how's she done? And then, okay. I'm almost done with the Shada ebook. I'm loving it, and I'm kind of dragging my feet in finishing it. Kind of don't want it to end. Feedback on the Time Lady Rani episodes. Mark of the Rani happens to be my first Perry episode. She seems to handle herself pretty well through the screaming of "Doctor!"
Though
the scream. God,
want me to take over?
somebody else should read this. No, all right, I'm going to start over here. Hi, guys. Loved you. No, I'm just kidding. She seems to handle herself pretty well, though the screaming of "Doctor!" got a little grating. Note to any future companions for the Doctor out there, they don't make any bad remarks about the TARDIS or you get kicked off.
You get a ticked off
Doctor. Wow, I cannot read tonight. Loved Perry's bit of advice that wasn't followed. If a place creeps you out, leave.
If truer words were ever spoken.
I have to agree with that.
I mean, Perry just went woof in the props department for best companion ever because she said it. Now, not that the Doctor would ever listen to that particular piece of advice.
Not going to follow advice.
But from the fan standpoint, for those of us that, dude, I would follow you gladly anywhere you go. But there. I don't want to go downstairs into the creepy vault. Really? Do we have to? Okay.
All right. Was I the only one that was keeping a close eye on the scarecrow in the field to see if it was going to start making its way to the Doctor and Perry? There's really no love lost between the Rani and the Master. I was thinking that when those two teamed up, that they would be trying to stay one step ahead of the other and trying to sabotage the other two, even if they want to both make sure the Doctor doesn't stop them. I guess all TARDIS keys let you into other TARDISes like a master key, no pun intended. The ending of the Doctor trapping both the Rani and the Master in the Rani's TARDIS, minus the braking system, was pretty devious. Not to mention the baby T-Rexes that looked like they were growing because of the increase in time and velocity. Time in the Rani. I have to say, Sylvester McCoy's Doctor is really starting to grow on me pretty quickly watching these 4 episodes. Rather surprised that the Rani made it out of her TARDIS pretty much unscathed from her last run-in with the Doctor. Nice twist with the Rani pretending to be Mel and having to remind herself to stay in character. The Doctor playing spoons and making all those puns had me giggling. The scene with the Doctor in his wardrobe in the TARDIS picking out his new outfit was brilliant. The Rani's TARDIS in this story was rather interesting. Is it just me, or does that really stick out like a sore thumb? The Rani gets her just desserts, and the Tetraps taking up residence in her TARDIS and wanting her mind for whatever plot they have cooked up. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on these episodes. Holly from Wisconsin.
I'm so happy to hear that other people enjoy Sylvester McCoy more. I feel like it's a big old W in the column for me.
Well, thanks for writing in, Holly.
Absolutely.
And we will move on to our reviews. First up, The Mark of the Rani. Drawn off course, the TARDIS materializes near the Killingworth coal pits in the 19th century England, and the Doctor and Perry witness the Luddites' rebellion in full swing. Soon they realize they aren't the only time travelers in the area.
Dun-dun-dun. What?
Nothing. That was actually appropriate. It was the perfect speed and emphasis and level. And
part of this, maybe I'm just not used to going back to Classic Who and seeing 2 45-minute episodes. Parts of this drag for me.
It's a bit of an adjustment, and I haven't seen many of them. Well, actually, I think now we've seen probably all of them, haven't we? Glenn doesn't know.
No, we got a lot left.
Are there a lot of 45?
Twin Dilemma. Wasn't that the first one, or did they split that one up? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I thought it was primarily just during
Well, it was pretty much all
Colin's
of
Acre.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been Twin Dilemma. Would have been Colin's first episode. I can't remember. Twin Dilemma might not have been because that was the end of season 21, I think.
Yeah.
Attack of the Cybermen was.
Yes.
Vengeance on Varos was. Mark of the Rani was. Two Doctors was actually three 45 minutes. Time Lash. Revelation of the Daleks was, too, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So Time Lash.
I want to say every Colin Baker I've
Time
watched
Lash
has
was,
been.
so we haven't watched Time Lash yet.
We've not watched Twin Dilemma, Time Lash, or Trial of the Time Lord.
And the Trial of the Time Lord series, which was season 23, I don't remember. It seems like those were back to normal.
Well, regardless,
Yeah.
the other ones
Kind of
didn't.
dwelling on an
For me,
unnecessary
didn't
here,
seem to drag as much as for some reason this one did.
Yeah, the Trial of the Time Lord season, the length were 4 episodes, 25 minutes each,
Okay.
on almost all those stories.
And I liked the Rani in this story, and I liked her interactions with the Master. But it almost had that Batman issue. One too many villains. That I think it would have been great to have a Rani proper introduction without the Master. And then bring the Master in and see that interaction. But there were so many cooks in the kitchen in this story that it felt so muddled. And so, okay, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? And while there were a lot of great moments in it, I thought the story overall suffered because of the Master's presence.
I agree and disagree with you. I'm a very big proponent of the Rani stories. This one to me very much feels like the middle of a trilogy.
I can totally see
there
that.
Should have been a Rani episode prior to this, where we get an introduction, a proper introduction to her as a villain, so that we know what she's all about. Because trying to get that information in with the Master being the one to feed it to us felt a little
Because
wonky.
you never trust the Master to begin with,
Exactly.
so why would you believe in what he's saying about the Rani?
Yeah, exactly. I loved the Master in the story, though. Honestly, the interactions between the two of them really are what made this for me. I loved that
I would
aspect of
agree.
it, and the bickering and the fighting, and the Doctor's almost to the point where he could kind of step back and go, "You guys take care of this, and let me know when you're done, and I'll be over here having a cup of tea." Because
I'll take care of whoever's left.
Exactly. I mean, when you guys are done with the bickering, I think it would have been really nice to have had a full blown Rani story ahead of time, and then gone into this one.
Which in this story almost doesn't make. Yeah, the Rani is somebody that the Doctor would have had to stop, but not as such a evil character as the Master is. She's down here doing this because she needs to for whatever reason elsewhere, not for the heck of it. Where that's the Master's MO. He's doing this to try to dominate or whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And she has a more scientific aspect to it, and I like that angle of it. It's just gets meddled with the Master being involved.
Well, I mean, don't forget that, she's doing it for a reason, but the reason is because she rules an entire planet,
which I found
which the inhabitants
fascinating.
are not sleeping.
Right. She's got subjects, and her subjects are sleep deprived, so she has to go somewhere else to get a fix for her sleep deprived subjects are becoming violent.
Well,
and that's her solution is, Earth doesn't
go make
need
another
sleep.
planet sleep deprived.
But that also speaks volumes for her character of, she rules this world and doesn't want it to go. She doesn't want it to go into chaos. She's ruler, and it's like, okay, I'm ruler. I'll go off conquer another planet. She wants to maintain ruler level and not let it, and almost cares about her subjects and the fact that she's willing to go and try to get sleep for these.
I think she's just afraid her monarchy will be overthrown.
But then,
because they start to revolt,
so she'd go and dominate another planet.
That's why she's going to get this fix.
But she, like the Master,
Especially
would
against
just
technology.
go.
Yeah, but if she can just go steal one little fix to fix her planet, why run off and try to start a whole new
The
plan?
Master would.
Well, the Master would, but
That's a different MO, though.
That's
Yeah,
what I
he's-
liked about
he's
her.
like a
it's
megalomaniac.
completely different MO.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You're arguing against your point, and that's why the Rani is probably a better villainess for that matter.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree that she's a better villainess.
Oh, okay.
I just felt like she was almost more sympathetic because she wasn't a megalomaniac.
Oh, okay.
That's the point I'm getting at.
No, I definitely think she's still a megalomaniac. She
After
is,
time in the Rani, yes. Just this, no.
maybe that's
She's upstaged by the master in megalomania.
maybe that's my fault because I did watch. I've seen Time in the Rani before, so that was my introduction to the Rani. I'd never seen Mark of the Rani until this past week when we watched it. Yeah, I'd never seen it, and so I came into it with that kind of base knowledge of who she was based on the other story. But yeah, a whole planet full of sleep deprived people, which are conveniently left out of the plot. You notice,
Yeah.
Okay, well,
referenced.
we fix that situation back in the TARDIS, and we leave. And what
She
happened
still
to that
has to
planet?
go deal with it.
Well, assuming she got out of the T-Rex.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't. She's not really left in a position. She doesn't have the antidote. She's stuck in a TARDIS with the Master and a rapidly expanding T-Rex. When does she get back there to deal with it? It's just kind of one of those plot thuds that got dropped, and I really hope that there is not a entire planet full of insane people running around tearing things amok.
Well, I don't know if they mentioned this, but I know in the novelization for Time in the Rani, Pip and Jane Baker explain how the Master and the Rani escaped from the T-Rex in her TARDIS.
Is that where it grew too large too fast and
then
snapped
broke
its neck?
Which her TARDIS
Honestly.
was cool.
Her TARDIS was so cool.
I really liked
was
her
neat.
TARDIS.
It was neat. I'm with Chrissy on this. This is one of my favorite Colin Baker stories.
Really?
Yeah. But there's not a lot of good Colin Baker stories, so it doesn't take a lot.
See, I wasn't impressed with the Colin as a doctor in this one as I was with other ones.
Really? No, see, I liked him a lot better in this one. I thought he was fun, he was calculating, he was knowing, he was a lot of the elements of the Doctor that I like. I do like the cliffhanger-ish non-cliffhangers, and I totally disagree with you. I think the pacing of this is fantastic. And in fact, and I think we said this when we were watching for Friday Night Who, there were points where you knew that there would have been a cliffhanger there had this been the 25 minutes.
I think that's my problem, is that they wrote it for 25 minutes, and so they do these unnecessary mid-cliffhangers where they could progress the
I don't
story
even know
more.
that they were. No, I don't think they were even unnecessary. I think it was like climactic moments that you kind of miss when you're watching 20 minutes. You don't notice when you're going 45 because you go along and you progress a story, and then you get this nice little like crescendo, and then back down, and then you get another crescendo for the cliffhanger at the end. Whereas like a 25-minute episode, it's just like nothing until you get to the cliffhanger. Now, granted, it's still the same amount of time, but because you're dealing with a larger story in one episode, it really felt kind of like it felt even to me that we had a great little action moment in the middle, and then we had a great little action moment at the end, which ends up ultimately being the cliffhanger each time. So
I guess I'm
was
just
fine
used
with
to
that. I thought
classic
that was
Who
fine.
being
Yeah, I don't know that I can
episodes.
differentiate them between, because I agree with Keith. I don't think the pacing was bad, but I think the crescendos in the middle felt like it was formulated to feel like this is where the break would have been,
Yeah.
and whether it was written that way or we knew we were going to this format, and they just wanted to have that crescendo. I don't
would
know.
suppose
but
that this only being the fourth story in to Colin Baker's era, and only the third story that was in this format.
I would assume it was written for the
It was
four-
probably written for 4 parts.
for 4 parts. But I maybe, like I said, like maybe with Keith, maybe it's just difficult to differentiate between a 4-part and a 2-part because all of Doctor Who has been, for me, it's always been 4 parts or 6. You know, it's never been. Yeah, it's never been a longer chunk than that, unless it was the 5 Doctors because it was the anniversary special.
Right,
so
right.
this is all very new to me coming into it as well.
Well, and it's hard not to compare it when it's 2 parts to a new series, Doctor Who, which, at least in this instance, in my opinion, new series is written better, and with the intention of a 45-minute story.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's different, though. I mean, I imagine that Pip and Jane Baker, had they been told you're going to get 2 episodes, but they're going to be 45 minutes each, they would have structured it differently.
I would.
I
so
really
too.
believe so. Just like somebody going into writing New Who, you know the format that you're getting to. Now, if they came to you all of a sudden, if they came to Russell T Davies and said, "Oh, by the way, we've changed it. It's going to be 2 25-minute episodes now," then all of a sudden you're like, where do I put the cliffhanger? Because I got to have something happen. The doctor falls off a cliff. Okay, and then what happens here?
I sort of agree with Keith in the sense that I don't know that I needed the master in this story. I think they could have easily written this without him. It's almost like he's kind of there
To fill the gaps
Well,
of who the Rani is.
No, well, not even so much that. But yeah, okay, I'll give you that. But almost for the so that the Rani can kind of share what she's doing with the audience without having, because she doesn't encounter the doctor until
Oh, yeah.
most of the
Way
way through
late
that
in
first
this, yeah.
episode. So yeah, it's just it's almost like the master's there to kind of be the companion to find out what the plan is for the Rani.
She needed a companion. She
Yeah,
needed somebody
I just-
to kick around. And
Exactly. So I agree. I don't think the master was necessary here. The other thing that bothered about this, and Keith, you haven't seen Planet of Fire, but the master sort of meets an almost a Davros demise.
he was killed.
Yeah. And
Again?
While they don't say how he got out of that, I do appreciate the fact that the Sixth Doctor says, well, yeah, I saw him burn up, and whatever the planet's name is. And so I kind of thought, well, I'm glad they at least acknowledged that, but I would really like to hear some backstory of how he got out of that. So, but we'll obviously visit Planet of Fire.
We'll explain later.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's one of those things. When we talked about David Tennant's reaction to Davros coming back, it was, at this point, shouldn't it just be, of course? Because everybody has come back.
Should have just known.
He should have just known. I mean, and here the doctor's confused. He's not even concerned. He's just confused. I thought you were dead. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, a new episode, Sutek comes back, and he'd just be like, "Of course you are." Okay.
I like the minecart tied to that thing and going towards there was just a lot of fun moments in this, and I thought that the Sixth Doctor really got a chance to shine. Some of the dialogue that he has in this, and I wish I could remember off the top of my head because it's been 2 weeks now, but there are just things that he says that I just found myself chuckling at and thought were funny. One of the other things that I had a problem with was the Rani's mines that turn people into trees. That was a bit outlandish and out there, but
Somebody watch Wizard of Oz right before writing that part.
the one tree did save Perry from stepping on her own mine, though.
Yes, so...
Do you remember how we were watching and Mel was very much like, "Are they going to turn into trees?" Wham! Oh wow, they turned into trees. I mean, she was right on it, and we were laughing so hard about tree mines. What do you call those?
Tree mines.
Tree mines? I don't know. I can't decide if it's a bad trap or not.
Or brilliant.
In her twisted mind, and as she points out, she's actually doing the kid a favor because
He'll live forever.
he'll live for many, 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 many more years.
As a tree.
Until the Industrial Revolution that they're working so hard to continue to foster decides they need lumber. And then I have envisioned a very horrible screaming death for that young man.
I do love the pragmatic doctor's attempt to go in there and sabotage the Rani's TARDIS with his master key. Yeah, I thought that was kind of odd, too. Well, what's the point of having a key to your TARDIS if any other Time Lord can get in there?
I imagine that takes away a lot of the romance of William Hartnell's Doctor stealing the TARDIS.
Yeah. Anybody's key would have worked.
He probably got a job as a valet parker for an afternoon, and here's the keys, take good care of her. Oh, I will. And off he went. Cue the Ferris Bueller Star Wars scene,
No, I like this one. I like everybody's portrayals in it. This is a fun one. This is one of Colin Baker's best, I think, of the TV series. I thoroughly enjoy him in a lot of audios.
I don't know if it's my favorite of his TV, but it wasn't. It was for the most part enjoyable.
I think it's a good story. I think it's a very enjoyable romp, and I think it's a lot of fun. And I love the Rani.
I think my biggest complaint is just that it feels cluttered.
I can understand that.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot going.
as well.
And honestly, as with most historical pieces, it seems like
yeah,
there's almost
then
either
there's
not
the-
enough going on or too much.
And then there's the history to try to deal with and figure out what's actually happening in the historical aspect of everything.
I've always thought that the weird thing is that she's the Rani. You've got the doctor, the master,
The Rani.
the Rani.
Why is
Until
why
I
did she
found
get
out
it
later that Rani actually means mistress in Hindi.
Oh,
So
really? I
I,
didn't know
thought,
that.
okay, this actually makes a little more sense because you couldn't have come in and said the mistress and the master because then that would have been a little too corny. But to
Yeah.
kind of disguise it a little bit by using another language and saying, well, maybe this also means mistress in Gallifreyan. I thought that worked out really well. So
I like that. Then.
I think it also means queen as well
That makes sense.
in Hindi as well. But yeah, mistress worked for me when I read that one time. So
The line of dialogue that absolutely positively has to be elevated among the best ever is the one guy's comment when they get ready to leave. And I don't even. If the doctor or somebody says something about, "Aren't you concerned about this?" And he says, "Would it make any difference? Would it be any good to ask?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "Yeah, I'm not even going to." Like, just I'm totally butchering it because I don't remember what it
I don't
was now.
remember
But
exactly either.
you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah,
At the end of the episode,
Yeah.
where he's like, "Would it do any good to ask?" No. Okay.
Yeah.
And he just
yeah.
he's not going to bother asking.
Right.
And I thought that
He
was
was
so
wanting
good.
an explanation, and
Yeah.
yeah.
No, we're not going to go there. I don't know about Perry's dress.
Oh, the Princess Peach dress.
Now, previous to this was Vengeance on Varos. I don't remember her wearing the dress at the end of that one.
she didn't.
Why is she in this dress when they land here?
Well,
They don't comment on
She
it.
changes because she's in a different dress in the TARDIS than
Yeah.
when they get out.
I think that because of based on where they're going to Victorian England.
So that dress
Industrial-
was appropriate for...
Well, part of it is they still had probably the same. Well, they had JNT who said, "Well, let's make it a little more splashy and colorful." But I surmised that it was probably one of Victoria's leftovers that she just left on the TARDIS, and so, well, this is the right era.
The
so
TARDIS obviously has a fairly extensive wardrobe.
it must, yeah.
And I've kind of always been led to believe that should you... I'm going to pull a page from Star Trek. When they beam down to specific planets, they can have ship stores outfit them for whatever they need to visit this particular planet and still be incognito. I've kind of always assumed the TARDIS could do that as well. Now, you may have to hunt for a couple of weeks through closets to find what you're looking for, but it's there. But this was just kind of like, close enough.
Quite honestly, I think it was just done to try to complement the Doctor's outfit a bit. I mean, it's not as splash awkward colors together, but it's just the bright colors that I think probably camouflages the Doctor a little more.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I could see that, but I just knowing that they're going to this particular time frame, if assuming they knew they were going to this particular time frame, but they weren't because the TARDIS was pulled off course.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
The Rani yanked him, and
But they land knowing where they're at, so.
well, I don't know. I could think
Because
of
Keith's right. She wasn't in that dress at the very
no, she wasn't in it.
so.
I could think of many things that she should have worn or could have worn that would have been more. Not only time period appropriate, but let's run around in the forest and the Industrial Revolution time frame that are not big foofy. I'm not poo-pooing the dress, Chrissy. I'm sorry.
I'll have to look at the Perry costume.
Yeah.
Retrospective.
I mean, is it better than blue spandex?
See where they went with.
Depending on your point of view, yes, I guess. But
Blue spandex would not have worked in that time.
it would have not have worked in that time. Now, I'm happy with Perry wearing blue spandex anytime, but just yeah, not in the not in that particular time period, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you think the name of that desktop theme of the Ronnie's TARDIS? Is that like Dalek Industrial? Because did you notice it had bumps around the console?
Yeah, it did. It was.
What did the Master call them in Curse of Fatal Death?
Dalek bumps.
Beam locators.
Beam locators. Yes.
So why would the Ronnie need beam locators in the console then?
Obviously, to locate beams.
Oh. What's that? It's a conduit bender. What's it do? Bends conduit. All right, I'm with you. Anything else?
Not much more I can say about Mother Ronnie. She makes her mark.
That she does.
Let's move on.
Time and the Ronnie.
I can't believe he went off and ate peanut butter. We're sitting here stalling, and everybody's going, "What are they doing?"
He had the hiccups.
I had the hiccups.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't hear the hiccups.
I only heard the one, but I I was like,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you out.
I knew exactly
I
where he
had
was
the
going.
hiccups.
Okay, my bad.
Thankfully, Glenn's trick worked
Yeah. You gotta do
on the second spoonful.
You got to do the peanut butter. That's the only cure for hiccups. I tell you that right now.
I'm sorry to call you out. I was just like, what, are you still hungry? What are you doing? Because you wandered off, and then you went into the kitchen, and we're sitting here going, and how about that one guy? He was cool. Yeah, okay. And then you get into the cupboard, and you start eating peanut butter. I'm like, what are you doing? That's a Sean thing to do. You're supposed to be smarter than I am. Okay.
Time and the Ronnie. Violently wrenched out of time, the TARDIS is brought crashing down onto the planet Lacertia.
Lacertia.
There's no S.
It's
Lacertia.
there you
Lacertia.
go. Lacertia.
Lacertia. By the villainess Rani, caught within the maelstrom, the Doctor is forced to regenerate. Imprisoning the Doctor in her stronghold, as Rani seizes upon his vulnerable state. By imprisoning his friend Mel, the Rani deceives the unwitting Doctor into helping her achieve her audacious plan. Just what is she up to? And why has she enslaved Albert Einstein as a host of geniuses? And as an asteroid composed of strange matter approaches Lacertia, can a weakened Doctor save the universe when he has little idea of who he really is?
Dun, dun, dun!
That synopsis did not do the story justice.
No, it didn't. It really didn't.
Actually, it made it sound better than it was.
I enjoyed this story. I thought it was a lot. While the plot may have been a little thin,
I don't know that the plot was thin. I thought the plot was pretty complex and clever. I thought it was the execution was poor.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the little Doctor getting his metaphors mixed up.
That I loved. And
I
in fact,
love
I would have loved them to carry that. I'll tell you
I
what,
wish they'd have carried
the
that on.
Seventh Doctor would have been much more enjoyable, in my view, had they carried that through and continued that sort of character quirk. I think that would have been fantastic. I enjoyed every one of those moments. That's didn't happen though. I mean, that's the only good thing about this story is. I mean, there's little things that I enjoyed about it other than that, but I mean, that was one of the cool things about this.
I like the fact that they kept you wondering what the Rani was really trying to do, and then the fact that she was trying to create this planet that is what was it called?
A time manipulator.
A time manipulator. An entire planet as a time manipulator. I thought was a very big idea. And the fact that a lot of the...
It wasn't a planet, it was an asteroid.
No, the strange matter was the asteroid. The planet would have been Lacertia.
Yeah. When
the planet they were on.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
When the asteroid hit, it would have turned it into...
That's right.
Yeah. Which I thought once they revealed that, I was like, oh... Wow, that's quite the bold plan. That's quite ambitious.
You didn't think it was kind of silly that they had all these... She had been kidnapping all these brains, and almost every one of them was from Earth. And they were feeding their thoughts into this one big super brain that
Well, I
was
did
trying to come up with the formula in order to
I
create
did get a little of,
whatever this element was that they were going to shoot into the asteroid. You didn't think that was silly?
I did feel once they unveiled the brain part, it was a little silly.
Yeah,
but I accepted the giant flying brains in Futurama just fine.
But
So
this isn't. That's the thing this isn't Futurama.
Yeah,
I mean, this shouldn't be Futurama. It shouldn't feel like Futurama, and this made it feel like Futurama.
The giant brain, yes, is a little bit of a because we build the mystery of what's behind that door.
Yeah,
and we do a very good job
which
of building
I almost
the mystery.
assumed all the captive people were behind that door, feeding into almost a supercomputer.
And
it would have been better if it had been just a supercomputer.
Yeah.
That is what it is. However, the Rani being the
Rani
biologist, thank you,
scientist,
the chemist.
It made sense in her mind to build a giant mind.
I guess.
I don't know.
See, and that's one thing I never got a clear explanation on.
Maybe she kidnapped the Ood sphere. Because that's kind of a giant brain. I'm reaching, I know, but
that's one thing I never understood.
You don't complain about the Ood sphere being a giant brain down in the floor.
But it made more sense because it was a evolution of what the Oods were.
Okay, so I'm not picking a fight. I just want to clarify what is your issue.
Anthropomorphic brain. I don't care about that.
I just want to clarify what is your issue. Is your issue the fact that it was a giant brain, or that it was a giant brain being used for the plan?
It was a giant brain being used for the plan.
Okay.
The issue.
See, and if they would have explained where they got the brain,
I would have been more fine with it. But you're right; it doesn't fit in the fact that she's a biologist, botanist, scientist, all these different things. That's the way she does things. I just thought it was cheesy. I thought it was kind of dumb.
Did they get the brain from? Did she get the brain from something, or did she build it? Yeah,
probably the T-Rex whose neck broke.
No, that would have been pea-sized.
Oh, that's right. That would have been small.
Size of an acorn.
A little growth serum.
The other weak part
thought,
besides the giant brain,
no, go ahead.
Was Mel.
I'm kind of a Mel apologist. I don't think she's all that bad. I did like
Susan
the fact
screams less than Mel.
I did like the fact that she screams and screams and
That's
screams.
what I don't like about Mel.
But I do like the fact that the Rani pretended to be Mel in order to dupe the Doctor.
That was really enjoyable.
I do also like the fact that Mel knows about regeneration, but she's never seen it happen yet. So when she first comes in, doesn't recognize him. He thinks that she's the Rani because the Rani has convinced her. That was cool. I liked
and
that.
then let me feel your pulse.
Yeah,
that was great.
Figuring how they had to figure it out was he has 2 pulses. She only had one. She knows that he is the Doctor. He knows that she is. So that was cool. As
Chrissy said, it actually kind of is a little bit of a touching scene when he kind of melts and realizes that
he's been duped.
Oh wow, you're not who I thought you were. You know,
and she's not who I thought she was.
Yeah.
The actress that plays the Rani, fantastic.
Kate O'Mara.
Kate did such a fantastic job of portraying the Rani as Mel, and then the Rani. I mean, she really encapsulated Mel in her portrayal of that.
Yeah,
and that entire bit, as painful as the costume was so enjoyable. You're trying to figure out what's she trying to get the Doctor to do while being Mel. I really enjoyed all of that.
I like the idea that tetraps, the big bat-like creatures. I don't think they weren't realized very well. Why'd they have to have 4 eyes? I mean, I guess that's okay. It was better than an anthropomorphized bat. But it was just kind of weird that they had 2 eyes on each side, the one in the middle in the front and one in the back.
But they never seemed to utilize all of the eyes.
Well, not to mention that the eyes were. I mean, this is obviously the mechanics of the suit. But the eyes are always moving left and right, left and right. And I thought. And then, of course, when they talk, the mouth doesn't always open.
Well, and then the tongue.
I know the production values of Doctor Who should be better. But, I mean, they had some great visual effects, other than the rainbow thing that when the TARDIS lands, that was kind of weird.
But the balls,
were awesome.
were fantastic.
Those were fantastic. Yeah, And
More.
boy, is Mel lucky she's the only one that doesn't crash into the top of one of those mountains. It goes on over and lands in the water. But,
And apparently that bottom part doesn't land on the water.
yes,
It's the
fortunately.
side.
Well, I think it probably did, but then as she washed up to shore...
But then
It
he
turned
threw
sideways.
that thing into the water.
Yeah, he threw it into the lake and it exploded. So it was like,
Oh, that's right. That must have been the...
Yeah.
that's
That
what you're
was
saying.
the
That's
detonator part,
device that
so,
detonates.
yeah.
So.
Which, and what a better trap than trees for the Rani.
Yeah. Still, yeah. Mines, the same concept. So.
Yeah.
I had just gotten done making the comment that I always liked the look of the Lacurtians, the almost kind of half fish, half bird
Yeah,
thing. You know,
Half human, half reptilian is what I kind of
Well, that's
thought.
that's
No,
what
they've
they
got scales, but then
imply
they've got
later.
these big plumage things, and it's just I don't know.
It was hair.
Well, yeah, but it was a lot of hair.
Oh, okay.
It
I thought
reminded
it was
me-
a mohawk
You have to do
type
this
thing.
when you do it. It's a lot of hair. But I had just got done
Big
saying.
bird out of that, but I guess I can see
I
that.
could see it from the.
Chrissy
hair.
commented that they landed on the planet of the Big Bird people.
The big bird.
The doctor was going to meet up with Big Bird any moment now.
Ah.
So. But I just got done commenting that I always like the aliens in this one. And then the first tetrap went lumbering across the screen. I went, oh, yeah, Glenn's going to hate this. Because it's an anthropomorphized bat.
No, that wasn't what I didn't like about it. It just that they were just poorly realized. I didn't mind the fact that they were bat-like because they were, but they weren't. I mean, they had wings and they hung
And
upside
they hung
down.
upside
but
down, yeah. But
that was it. I mean, they did. That's just it. They did a great job of. If it had just been two eyes in the front of the head, ears, wings, and they looked bat-like, I'd have had a problem with it. But they took and changed. They made an effort to change the look and make them look alien, and so that's fine.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. It's just the suits looked real lumbering. That was the problem. Is even though it was
Yet
they
another
looked
lumbering
massive,
monster,
it just
yeah.
was another lumbering monster, and it didn't work for me very well. Horrible cliffhanger there too when they all surround the doctor when he goes down in the thing to escape the Rani, and they all come running up, and then dinner bell, ding 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 ding, quick doctor, get out of there. I mean, that was terrible. Come on, they totally would have.
And what did they eat? The slime from Ghostbusters 2?
What's that pink slime?
And why was the pink slime that they ate the same substance that was used to be the magic ingredient to
I
make
thought
the
the same
missile?
thing. I thought, wait a
yeah.
minute, are they
Doesn't that
eating
look
the same
exactly
stuff
the
that she's
same?
going to launch into the super matter?
Oh, it's that? Well, hell yeah, I've got that. I've got a bunch of that lying around. John Boy made a very interesting tweet that the whatever the name of the substance was that they came up with after the brain said, "Oh, you're looking for blah blah blah."
Yeah.
John Boy tweeted out that apparently it's an anagram for Holy Grail.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, nice catch, because that was just
Wow.
yeah. He claims to have been tipped off, but I haven't found it anywhere. So
Over there.
that was cool. I don't know. There's just there's a lot that can be kind of poo-pooed about this episode, and I don't disagree with any of your points that the tetraps were a little silly looking, but I don't think the tetraps were any worse than say Mikey from Peladon,
Hey.
Mikey from Peladon.
the big eye. What was the
Oh, yeah,
ambassador's name?
yeah.
Again, props to you for trying to do something different.
Agreed.
Did it
Yeah.
work? Not so much. But Mikey didn't work either. So,
I thought Mikey worked.
and again, the Lacurtians I thought were great.
The Lacurtians, now they looked great. I love but they felt underutilized in this. It's almost like we had some sort of sub-story
It's-
going on there that
It's
we
a
didn't quite.
submersive race that doesn't
Yeah,
really.
we didn't go anywhere with them. I mean, they were submersive, and the doctor ends up having to figure out a way to get them out of their little anklets after they decide to put those on later.
They
They were
reminded
really
me.
underutilized. I thought there needed to be more of a. They needed to stand up and rebel, or they
For as
needed
many
to,
of them as they had, I mean, for as many
Yeah.
costumes and makeup as they went, I had the same feeling. I kept waiting for that moment when, okay, we're all going to revolt and rise up and go charge and storm the castle, and they didn't. But I thought that was a very fitting scene at the end when he gives them the antidote to the disco ball bee stings
To the Tracker Jacks.
to the Tracker Jacks. And then he throws it out. It's like, nope, we're not going to
we're
mess
going
with
to
it.
take care of this ourselves. And I thought, you idiot, take care of other things yourself.
Well, no, from his point of view, I agree because they've kind of built up this leisure hive, if you will, kind of mentality that we're just going to hang out and do nothing. And this is the guy that's rebelling against
it. Wasn't
saying
even
no.
so much that it was. We've always had people doing stuff for us too.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked that when that's his act of rebellion, saying no, we are going to take care of this ourselves because I'm going to let the thing be infested.
Right.
You know?
The design of them, I can't remember the name of it now, and I just tried Googling it, and what I thought wasn't it. But there was this live-action kids show where it was literally anthropomorphized. Well, not as anthropomorphized animals. There was a parrots. There was a bunch of other things, and they sang and danced. I can't remember the name of it, and I wish I could because this species totally could have been a part of that show. I mean, they had the big poofs of hair, and there was a tiger, if I remember correctly, and a leopard, and like all of these humans dressed as animals, but not
Zoobly Zoo.
Yes, Zoobly Zoo. They could have been a part of Zoobly Zoo. I thought that entire
I never
time,
watched it. That was another show that when it came on, I turned the channel.
I was probably too old to be watching.
You guys probably were. I wasn't. I watched Zoobly Zoo. And yeah, they could have been part of Zoobly Zoo.
You said there was like a tiger, or maybe there was a cheetah. Maybe they
It was a
reused.
cheetah.
Maybe they
There
reused
was
all
a
of these
zebra.
outfits from
Doctor
Who.
Maybe.
The cheetahs from Survival. The parrot
Well,
from.
they weren't that cheetah.
Oh, okay.
It was still, you could see painted skin with cat nose.
I gotcha.
That kind of thing.
Zoobly Zoo.
Zoobly Zoo.
Never even seen it. Never even heard of it before.
The opening sequence is on YouTube. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sean.
Sure.
You validated my point.
Glad I could help
Not to
you out with
mention it
that
would have
one.
driven you crazy all night
It
long.
would.
The other thing was I think it was John Boy that tweeted this out too about Bayes, Donald Pickering.
Yes, it was.
Donald Pickering played a character in a William Hartnell story and a Patrick Troughton story. So he's had quite the longevity career there.
Is that right?
He was
That's
the head Lacurtian who the Rani had.
He was one that was really doing most of the heavy work for her.
Yeah. Well, and fulfilling that need that she didn't have in Mark of the Rani of somebody kick around and kind of explain things
what's
too.
going on as we go.
So
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. I thought that was the things you find on YouTube. It's very interesting. In this case, I imagine it was probably Wiki.
YouTube.
What did you guys think of the resolution with Rani in her TARDIS with all the Bat people?
Oh, it was another one of those. It was almost part and parcel for how the last time we see her is ended. You know, she's stuck in this like accelerated time vortex, and everything's going wrong that way. And there's the giant T-Rex getting ready to take over. This one now we have the Bat guys that are
Tetraps.
Yeah, Tetraps that are have taken over the TARDIS, and they've got her hanging from the ceiling there at the end. I mean, that was, I don't know, it was kind of, that was fine with that.
It's almost a little Scooby Doo.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
it
it's,
is.
you know,
but there's so much of that's almost Scooby-Doo. We got to run away, and, you know.
Actually, it's almost every Hanna-Barbera cartoon. You know, the
Yeah.
Smurfs, where Gargamel's at the end, and, you know, he's being carried off by the big pterodactyl, or not pterodactyl, big giant bird, or there's, you know, everything's like that. The bad guys always ends up, they're going to come back, but they are put in some sort of peril as punishment for what they did in that episode.
Yeah.
But they will be back. Oh, yes, they will be back.
Unfortunately, the Rani never comes back.
No, she does.
Well, she does.
Well, in a
She comes back
non-canonized
she comes back
special.
for Dimension of Time. And if it aired on TV, it's canon.
I second Chrissy's comment on...
Curse of Fatal Death aired on TV. We don't consider that canon.
Some people do.
Well, he could have been the next regeneration, you know. He could be in that same splintered universe as the Shaka Doctor.
Yeah,
I guess
See?
so.
There you go. In fact, the books kind of... We talked about this. I don't remember the name of the book, but there's the one where he looks into his future, and he sees different... He sees one guy in a leather jacket, sees one guy in a... that looks like Richard E. Grant, and he sees another guy that's looks like Rowan Atkinson.
Rowan Atkinson.
I mean,
Yeah,
they don't describe him that way. They describe him in the sense that stays in universe. Yeah, but that was very clever.
I have to second Chrissy's comment on the wardrobe scene when.
Yeah, I enjoyed
Yeah.
I enjoyed, and you commented on all the short jokes that we made.
Oh, there were so many.
I almost felt bad for him at one point. Because it was several jokes written into the episode that kind of poking fun at Sylvester's stature.
He even made fun of his own stature.
Well, and then what's the first thing he does when he gets into the wardrobe? Is he puts on the Napoleon hat and kind of wanders around like this. So was that. But, of course, we had the second Doctor's fur coat. We had Pertwee smoking jacket. We had the scarf and
we had the maroon,
maroon
the outfit from
and his comment old
18.
hat, which was great. And then the cricket outfit all made cameo appearances there. So that was. I always like it when doctors put on other doctors' clothes. So just kind of parade around for a minute and go, nah.
That one almost done. That one, I don't mind it to like an extent. That one was almost like, how many can we put on? You know, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
By the third or fourth one, you're like, come on.
I think if they would have only done those, but the fact that there was a Napoleon and there was another one that he tried on, I think that lessened the.
Well, besides the Napoleon, the only thing he did was he put the Q-tip hat on
the gigantic fur.
Yeah, the London Guard. Type hat. That was the only other thing he put on.
But I'll allow it because he's suffering from amnesia at that point. I mean, really.
Forced
amnesia. Not just post-regeneration amnesia. Just like he's been drugged.
Right.
So he's desperately grasping at who am I. And the part of his mind that's still working probably is going back and trying to pull these things out of the closet and latch on to something. So I'm totally okay with it in this instance. Now, if every doctor did that many old doctor outfits every time, I'd probably get a little old. Yeah. But it's not, as opposed to just a nod to the scarf or a nod to this. I thought this was just fine.
Well, he spends a good deal of time in the Sixth Doctor outfit too.
Yeah, almost
at the beginning.
A whole episode, if not more.
No, in the whole episode. No,
almost the whole
it was about
episode,
halfway through the first. No, it was.
I thought it was in the second.
Was it? I thought it was near the end of the. What was the first cliffhanger? I can't remember.
I don't remember, but he's in the old suit for most of it.
Was the first cliffhanger Mel getting trapped?
I think it is.
I think so.
Okay, so then it probably was because they hadn't left the.
They left the
base.
Rani so
lab.
He probably was in it for the first full episode.
What do we think of now? Of course, I'm a self-professed Sylvester McCoy fanboy, and so I love his persona. I mean, he hit the ground running, and I enjoy the mixed metaphors and the fact that he plays spoons. That doesn't bother me. I know a lot of people just freaked out and were totally, you guys suck, Sam. But I had zero problems with any of it.
I think especially, at least for me, coming from Matt Smith's portrayal of the Doctor, I see some Sylvester McCoy's portrayal in Matt Smith's. I mean, there's a lot of goofiness in there that Matt Smith carries on. And I love that aspect of him. He doesn't take it so seriously, that he's out there having fun. He's having fun in the universe. Unlike, to some extent, Tom Baker, maybe later in the run, and
Pertwee.
Pertwee's
not having fun, but
he's
been
not having
exiled
fun.
to Earth.
Yeah.
So he's spent most of...
And even Colin Baker.
2/3 of his time trying to get off of Earth.
Colin Baker is so grumpy throughout at least what I've seen of his run, that to have a lighter Doctor, I think it's a nice change of pace.
I wouldn't classify him as grumpy. I think he's more...
The way he talks...
Pompous.
The way he talks to...
He's just more pompous.
Yeah.
It's more... He's self-absorbed. He's...
arrogant.
Yeah, that's not grumpy. That's just...
he's not grumpy. He's not grumpy like William Hartnell's Doctor.
No,
He's definitely...
I will agree there. William Hartnell's grumpy.
Cantankerous.
Yeah.
I don't even know that he's cantankerous.
Well...
Cranky.
No, I don't think so.
The way he yells at Perry sometimes, it's like, really? Cut her some slack. She doesn't know these things.
That was something going back to Mark of the Ronnie that I really appreciated.
That's not cranky. That's like, again, that's more of his, like, he's full of himself. It's almost like you should know this, type thing. It was just this. It's
regardless,
sort of
going from that
an era
to this, it's a
I agree.
very
It is a
refreshing
change.
very drastic change. Yeah, that line in Mark the Rani where he yells at Perry about something, but then when she's in danger from the Rani, the first thing he does is don't hurt her.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, just immediately rises to her defense, and I really appreciated that because for all of their, it's like that's your way of apologizing. I get it. Okay. Glenn, you've been kind of quiet on the daggers end. I really expected more spit. I expected more spit and venom from you in regards to this one.
No, I mean, just it's a Seventh Doctor episode, and it's not a good one at that. It's just.
I view it as
I'm pretty numb to a lot of Seventh Doctor stuff now because that's the era of material, and it's not because of the Seventh Doctor necessarily, but because the Seventh Doctor ends up put in these stories and these situations that just reflects poorly on him. But it's just I've become numb to the Seventh Doctor's era. I can't sit here and trash it and tear it apart because none of it's enjoyable to me. I mean, there's very few stories. There's moments in this one that I like, but no, I'm not going to get vehement about it. It's not a horrible episode. It's just not done well. None of the Seventh Doctor series is done well, with the exception of a few.
Well, it's beneath him to dog on it. Wow.
For me, it's almost more of I know the story doesn't quite make sense, and there are plot holes you could drive trucks through.
That's
so much fun to watch.
Again, it's
a guilty pleasure.
That's all of the
is
Seventh
exactly
Doctor's,
where I come down on it.
But that's all of the Seventh Doctor stories, and so
I'm having enough fun watching it that I don't care.
It's Transformers.
No, don't go there.
Okay, it's above Transformers.
G.I. Joe.
Okay, I'll go there. It's watching some of Tim Burton's movies.
What about the Rani? This is an adversary archive on the Rani. Let's talk a little bit about her.
I think we've talked a lot about her and Mark.
Well, and I think her character
she stays true to her nature.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to see her come back?
I would love to see her come back.
I mean, we one of the ideas that we kind of postulate, or that I put forth in Friday Night Who, is that, well, would she come back? Can she come back? Do we think that she is a victim of the Time War? Because I came up with if they go back and get Rassilon out of Hawk, and he's taken over, and he's given the Master a get out of jail free card and a complete pardon in order to help with the Time War, surely he would give the Rani one as well. And I can almost see the Rani being excited over the potential scientific curiosity of trying to create a virus that would wipe out the Daleks. And applying her mind to something that's going to create genocide. I think she'd be all over. But would she bother coming back for the Time War? If she didn't come back for the Time War, is she still holed up somewhere in the galaxy,
quite frankly,
or in the universe?
I don't see her not coming back. I mean, she was really only banished from Gallifrey because she mutated mice and they ate the president's cat and took a chunk out of him, according to the Master. I mean, that's why she was banished. Yeah. I get the impression she was quite the scientific mind on Gallifrey. She just made some bad choices. So I totally expect that if they said, "Well, your banishment's been lifted," yeah, she'd go back. I mean, she's got exact motive to find ways to fight this war. I totally see her coming back. I think the Time Lords were so desperate at one point in the Time War, I would assume, that they pulled everybody back. They pulled all of their resources and brought everybody in.
So then the next question is, did she survive?
No, I don't think she did. Unless you pull a Master scenario where she ran, but that's already been done, and I don't know. It's really hard to bring back characters in New Who that are associated with the Time War, because if you do and you don't do it in such a clever way, then it feels like you're just kind of rehashing the Master's story.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they would be afraid to do with the running. Now, the interesting thing could be, well, I'll postulate this later because I put that out there for next week's show. But I wondered if, I'll say it now, I wondered if that is one of the things that they're toying with Jenna Louise Jameson, that maybe she comes back and we find out that she's actually a regeneration of a Time Lord. and then later find out maybe she was the Rani or is the Rani.
Well,
So,
we
I don't know.
speculated that the girl regenerated in the alley at the end of
Right, could have been the Rani.
at
A lot
the
of
beginning
people
of the season.
speculated
Yeah,
on that as well. So
that
I
river
thought for
was
sure
the
it
Rani.
Ronnie. Maybe it's just because I'm so desperate to get her to come back. I don't
let's
know.
see. The other thing
Well,
is
she's-
the Master. I think is easier to bring back because the Master's been in a lot of Who.
Oh, yeah.
The Master was even in kind of the gateway drug of Doctor Who, which is the movie. So the Master's able to.
A lot
is
of people
able
might
to
not
be,
have seen the Rani stories.
The Rani is such an obscure character that unless you're a fan, you don't know anything about the Rani. You'd have to introduce a lot of her character.
No
to
more
the-
obscure than Cybermats.
Cybermats get an automatic in being tied in with Cybermen.
Right,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
true.
But not to
That's
mention, I mean, even if a Cybermat shows up, it's introduced to them there as to what it does. It's
Yeah.
not like an iconic character. It's a service for fanboys because hey, we know what these are, but it also they made no bones as to telling you what it was doing and what it was for. So
That's
it was,
true.
you could be introduced to that for the first time.
Well, now with the rumors that Zygons will be back, will they be treated as a Silurian reboot, or do you guys think there will be a continuation?
Well, the Silurians weren't really a reboot. They would
It
just
was an offshoot.
It was an offshoot of something that he had
But I mean,
encountered before.
the Zygons are one story.
But the Zygons are easily. What benefits that is the fact that the Zygons really. You can rehash the background of the. I mean, we learned all about the Zygons in one story. Why not introduce them again?
But then, how much of that would be just doing the same story?
Well, I don't think you have to. I think all you do is reintroduce the background and then go a different approach with the story of it. No, I don't. I don't see that as a problem at all. The Rani. The problem with the Rani is because it's a specific character in Time Lord society. It's not a
species.
race. It's not a
Oh, okay.
species. Yeah, it's not a cybermat mechanical, computer. The Rani is the difficult one.
So you don't think she can come back, but would you like to see her come back?
I don't know that I would. I think she was enjoyable in these episodes that she's in, but she's not somebody I'm chomping at the bit to get back. If she came back, I'd be fanboy about it. I'd go, oh, hey, it's the Rani. Yeah, I know who this is. Do I want her back? I have no desire to go out there and campaign to bring her back. So,
Keith?
I would enjoy seeing her back, but with Glenn, I wouldn't campaign. Any Time Lord to see come back, I'd rather see Omega.
yeah, I'd rather see Omega. I'd even like to see the Meddling Monk again. I'd like to
Oh,
see.
yeah.
I mean, there are other
Yeah.
Time Lords I'd rather see come back. The War Chief. Oh wait, we have seen him come back
No, we haven't.
several times.
We've never seen the Master's father.
It's not the Master's father.
Speaking of the Master, I just finished the Eight Doctors, the book, The Eight Doctors,
Oh, yeah.
and there's a really wonderful, wonderful, wonderful explanation of the worm, that the reason why he
Oh, really?
becomes the worm in the movie.
Oh.
what that's all about. So,
Is that the one you're doing
Nice.
for the book review?
No, I'm doing Crooked World.
You are
for-
doing Crooked World. Okay.
book review.
You're not doing it. You're just reading recreationally.
I'm just reading regular. I'm so jazzed about doing Doctor Who books, and they're so far away that I just keep reading. I've gotten some copies of them, and I'm.
We can work them in
I'm all
sooner if you
excited.
want.
We may have to because I'm getting way ahead of you guys on books now. But wonderful story. I can't wait to review it because it's a totally fan wank story is what it is. On the surface of it being a novel, it's not a fantastic story. It's a fantastic story from the aspect that the Eighth Doctor is bouncing back through his regenerations because he has lost his memory. And so he has to go back from square one, and actually he doesn't even have to do it. The TARDIS is somehow taking him back to events. And the coolest thing about it is Terrence Dix is writing this book, who is, very, very steeped in...
We know Terrence.
Yeah, very steeped in Doctor Who lore. And every time that the Doctor goes back and visits one of his past incarnations, it's something from the television show. So it's something... like a stasis bubble happens around, and he ends up in events of all of his past incarnations in shows that we've already seen, stories that we've already seen.
All of them?
All of them.
Nice.
So, with the exception of perhaps the Seventh Doctor will be the only one that is the exception to that rule. So it's terrific. It's just so much. It was such a fun book to read. So I can't wait to review.
There's a mini review.
All right.
Yeah, there was a tiny mini.
Tiny, just to whet your appetite. Anything else?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
All right.
What's coming up on the schedule?
On the schedule next week, this week rather, for Friday Night Who? Frontier in Space with John Pertwee.
Yay,
I
Pertwee.
know Keith would be excited. Which is, if you're in North America, it's part of the Dalek War box. I don't think we're spoiling anything by saying it's part of the Dalek War box, so I think maybe somebody's going to show up in that one.
No.
The next week's
Cyberman?
show... No. Next week's show
K9?
number 73, the very, very big... Yeah, K9 and Pertwee would have made an interesting pair. He would have totally been about having K9 as a lab assistant.
Oh, yeah, he would have.
Yeah,
He would have been kind of cool,
used
actually.
him.
Liz Shaw and Joe Grant, by the way.
Yeah, hey, I don't need you anymore. I've got a dog.
I got a smart dog. Joe, go get coffee.
Go get coffee. 2 lumps, mistress. And then next week on show number 73, the very, very big Rogues and Renegades recap. We're gonna go back and retrospective. Rogues and Renegades retrospective. Because we don't get enough
Just
of
question in my head about that one. I'm not sure why we felt the need to go back and talk
because
about all this again.
Well,
but
I think there's a
We're
lot
going
of...
to focus on just...
Yeah, we're not going
Rogues
to talk
and
necessarily
Renegades.
episodes. We're going to talk specifically about the
characters.
characters and the, their...
rogueness.
their rogueness.
You know what? You come up with you come up with topics to discuss. I'm done. I don't want to do the schedule no more. I got to fill 2 hours a week, man. I'm coming up with topics.
Renegades, rogues, and rogueness.
I just thought it was kind of cool because with all of the history of the Doctor's, whenever the Doctor meets a Time Lord outside of Gallifrey and the headdresses and the organ music, we wind up with somebody who either left or got kicked out. It's almost on Star Trek, whenever they ran into a former ship captain, oh, you're the one that didn't make it. How many of these are there? I mean, it just constantly seems like, and I think it builds a lot of momentum toward our theory that, wow, Gallifrey really sucks.
Oh, yeah.
That this
No,
isn't
I would
the epitome of the universe that we thought it was.
I think what next week's show will serve us is not necessarily even a recap of the characters we're talking about. It's holding the mirror up of them to the Doctor.
Yes.
And I think
That's right. I'm not necessarily, I don't want to spend the entire episode talking about Rani again. What were her reasons for leaving other than mice? I just,
she was banished.
She didn't want to leave.
But was she kicked out in a, scientist Jumba from Lilo and Stitch? I made a monster, but just a little one kind of way, or was it that because I could see that conversation going on in the Panopticon, or was it more of a you have been a thorn in the side of us for long enough, and this is just the
save this.
The end.
This is good stuff.
This is our conversation for next week.
Giving good reasons.
So there's that. We do still plan on at some point doing Shada if it comes in. I think we may have to get the ebooks because the hardcover is not.
Run down to, if you don't want to get an ebook, you want a hard copy. We could go split the cost on one at Barnes & Noble.
Oh, B&N's got it?
I'm sure they do.
I didn't know it was.
It's been out since March.
When I was at Hastings in Lawrence, I didn't see it.
If it wasn't there. Well, we'll go see. We'll find
I
out.
looked for it, so.
Well, at any rate,
Yeah.
So I don't know if you wanted to bump that or not, but that's on the docket.
Horizon.
I've already read it, so I don't know.
Yeah, you don't care.
You guys want to bump it?
It's up to you poor schlubs to figure that one out.
No, well, it's totally what kind of time frame you guys need to read it, because you guys are both
I'm out
have
of
to
school
read it,
now, and I'm not taking a summer class. I can
got
read
all the
recreationally.
time.
Read.
I got a whole stack of books waiting for me. So, but that's that.
So that's what's coming up.
That's what's coming up.
All right. Well,
That's what's coming up down the road.
Yes,
but
yes.
coming up next.
yes. Stick
Now.
around, because
When will then be now?
Now.
Soon.
Dr. Phil has a couple more audios for us discussing the music of Time the Rani and Mark of the Rani. I did those in reverse order, but
you did.
You know what I meant. He's going to give us a little insight, so we'll hope you stick around for that after we close.
And I'll be sticking around because I didn't get a chance to listen to them yet, so I'm very curious to know if I'm sure he does. One of the things that we talked about on Friday Night Who was that there were musical cues in Time in the Rani that actually incorporated the theme. And that kind of split people, because I think some of us were like, yeah, okay, that's kind of cool. And I know Chrissy was one of the ones that, no, she didn't like it. So it was kind of throwing her to actually hear Doctor Who music in Doctor Who. It's just a little strange. So
stick around and find out.
I'll have to stick around and find out.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. There's nothing else to talk about.
That's the end.
I'm sorry,
why are you still here? You're done.
We're coming in under 2 minutes. So
I hope
under 2 minutes. Wow.
I hope you've arrived at your station and your destination.
Yeah, hopefully so.
We could talk about the Avengers some more.
Yeah, we could, but then we'd be here for another hour. So that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Be seeing you.
What now?
Communication from Watchtower Command. Mistress.
Authorized capsule entry imminent. Stand to on Sector 7.
Well, well, well. The Rani.
You were expecting to see the master?
To see? Not exactly. He was burnt to a crisp the last time I saw him.
Your smugness is misplaced. He's here. He's very much alive, and he wants vengeance. Curse the pair of you.
Well, since we're insulting each other, I can't say I care much for your taste in clothes. Doesn't do a thing for you.
Your regeneration's not too attractive either. But at least I can change my appearance. You're stuck with what you've got.
Our face is of no importance. Brain regeneration is what I need. I should have been able to pin this one down to you. Personality changes, probably due to an imbalance in body chemicals. Yes, you're the obvious culprit. Well, you had me fooled, if that's any consolation.
It isn't.
You'd have been discovered eventually, you know, even without my intervention.
I never have.
Oh? Well, this isn't your first visit?
I've been coming to this wretched planet for centuries.
Without being discovered? Well, I'm impressed. You're obviously a brilliant tactician as well as a brilliant chemist.
Oh, it isn't difficult. These humans you so admire are a feckless lot, always in disarray. The Trojan Wars, the Dark Ages, the American War of Independence.
And now the Luddite riots.
Perfect cover.
Cover, yes. But for what? I think I've got it. You're extracting a chemical from the brain. The result is the victims become violent, aggressive, can't rest. That's it. The chemical that promotes sleep.
I begin to understand why the Master finds you such a menace. Oh, where is the idiot?
I take it you're referring to the Master. But why don't you release me?
What, and have you two stopped my work?
These are human beings, Rani. Living creatures that have done you no harm.
They're carnivores. What harm have the animals in the fields done them? The rabbits they snare, the sheep they nourish to slaughter. Do they worry about the lesser species when they sink their teeth into a lamb chop?
Dr. Phil again with another installment of Adventures in Time, Space, and Music. In this segment, we'll be looking at the music of Jonathan Gibbs. Jonathan Gibbs worked at the BBC Radiophonic Workshop from 1903 to 1985, composing scores to the Doctor Who stories The King's Demons, Warriors of the Deep, Vengeance on Veros, and The Mark of the Rani. In this episode, we will look at his work on Serial 6W, Story 140, The Mark of the Rani. Mark of the Rani originally aired between the 2nd of February and the 9th of February 1985 and received its DVD release in 2006-2007. This beautifully filmed story was shot on location for the most part at Bliss Hill Open Air Museum in Shropshire. This Industrial Revolution pseudo-historical was one of the first Doctor Who stories I saw on television. Attack of the Cybermen was the very first. And because of the extra film crew that the production team was able to procure at the BBC, this story appears more polished and expensive than episodes whose content was shot mostly on video. This may also be a reason why I have a warm spot in my heart for Colin Baker's Doctor, which has since been beautifully fleshed out in the Big Finish audios, the best of the Big Finish Doctors by far. Also, this is why I feel a deep sympathy for what he went through behind the scenes in the coming hiatus and season 23. Nonetheless, in this story, Anthony Ainley's master takes a sideline to the introduction of a new villain, the Time Lady known as the Rani. An excellent debut for the character, the amoral Rani is performed with relish by Kate O'Mara, who would only again appear in the series in Serial 7D, Story 148, The Time and the Rani, McCoy's premiere story, as well as the non-canonical, controversial 30th anniversary story Dimensions in Time in 1993. Keep an eye out for the Rani's TARDIS, probably one of the best original sets of the Colin Baker era. Gibbs' melancholic score opens with a bit of flavor, owing its inspiration from British composer Sir Edward Elgar. This may seem anachronistic in a period setting, being on synthesizers, but I find it effective stating to the audience that this is Doctor Who, differentiating it from many other period dramas produced by the BBC at the time. I must admit that this take on scores for Doctor Who has been missing since the revival of the new series. It would come as no surprise that now I would have loved to have seen a Tout le Matin de Monde and All Mornings of the World sort of score for The Girl in the Fireplace in the new series. That kind of period instrument soundtrack of Meret, Forqueray, and Lully would have been perfect to give the French setting a more authentic flavor while using the large symphonic space opera style soundtrack for the future settings. But alas, I digress from this excellent score. Gibbs' incorporation of the Doctor Who theme in subtle ways works well in this story. His use of dissonance makes the score moody and interesting, giving the story a lot of atmosphere. The opening music of the Sleepy Village, the most inspired by Elgar, does an excellent job depicting this coal mining village. I find the music, while minimal in its orchestration, is interesting in its use of music box-like sounds, in addition to the ominous sustained pedal tones, allowing Gibbs to really build the tension harmonically. He also has a tendency to use pseudo-percussion sounds and organ-esque sounds to punctuate action, thus being rather non-obtrusive to the action. The snare-punctuated chase music accompanying the Doctor's flight from the miners, as well as the cart chase sequence, is quite memorable and uses the Doctor Who theme in an ominous way, possibly one of my favorite uses of the theme in his soundtrack in the original series. The music accompanying the climax in the Rani's TARDIS is excellent. It sets up another impossible escape for the villains, who both return to battle the Doctor again. While there is no audio release of Jonathan Gibbs' score to The Mark of the Rani, some of his other music appears in the 1983 release, Doctor Who The Music 2, which was a continuation of Doctor Who The Music in 1983. Unfortunately, because of the time of this release, the album would only include his work from the Kings, Demons, and Warriors of the Deep. This album featured arrangements of Doctor Who scores arranged as suites and remixed in stereo. This recording was reissued with additional tracks in 1992 on Silva Screen Records as The Five Doctors, classic music from the BBC Radiophonic Workshop Volume 2, and later in 1994 as the Best of the Doctor Who Volume 1, The Five Doctors. The 2006-2007 To Entertain DVD release includes many excellent extras. Playing with Time is a 9-minute interview with composer Jonathan Gibbs about his work on the story. The DVD audio options include an isolated soundtrack of Gibbs' score. With this feature, you will hear the score for the story sequentially as it appears in the episode, rather than edited together as in the case of the Five Doctors Special Edition DVD. This does mean that there are long gaps of silence in between music cues. An alternative option is an isolated score for Episode 1, with the original score composed by John Lewis, who unfortunately died during production. Dr. Phil again with another installment of Adventures in Time, Space, in Music. Here we'll be looking at the music of Kev McCulloch. In this episode we will look at his work on Serial 7D, Story 144, Time in the Rani, which originally aired between the 7th and the 28th of September 1987 on BBC One. In 1987, in addition to his incidental music, Kev McCulloch used the Sequential Circuits Prophet 5 synthesizer to create a new version of the Doctor Who theme, moved to A minor, replacing Dominic Glynn's E minor Trial of a Time Lord series theme, the first since the 1973 Delaware version to include the so-called middle eight in the opening credits. Having extensive background in popular music, working as both a sound engineer and as a musician, he was mostly known for engineering and producing singles for artists ranging from Acker Bilk, Johnny Logan, and Russ Abbott. If the Colin Baker era was the era of a doctor in a Technicolor Dreamcoat, Kev McCulloch's era would be described using similar terms, mostly because of his colorful sound palette using orchestral hits and bold colors in his orchestrations. In addition to his score for Time in the Rani, Kev McCulloch composed scores for other McCoy stories, including Paradise Towers, Delta and the Bannermen, Remembrance of the Daleks, Silver Nemesis, Battlefield, as well as the VHS release of Shada, as well as the 3D 30th anniversary story Dimensions in Time. Surprisingly, there is a pre-title sequence filled with music filled with ambiguous augmented triads and asymmetrical syncopations. The opening is very striking and exciting indeed. I was surprised studying the score for the first time since hearing it in the 1980s how much Ron Grainer's theme is incorporated into this score. A few interesting themes occur here. McCulloch's theme for the Lacertians is otherworldly and seems to be one of the most interesting and popular music-inspired cues, filled with syncopations and colorful harmonies. The action music is rather anarchic sometimes, accompanying the well-realized tetraps, the Rani's minions, filled with 1980s orchestral hits, which were very popular at the time, taking center stage whenever it's present. I do think when he attempts to convey atmosphere through slower material, it's rather effective, and the music accompanying The Strange Matter is quite dramatic, probably the most memorable musical material to the viewer. While fandom is not often forgiving to Keff McCulloch, his music is dramatic nonetheless, an interesting element of late 1980s Doctor Who to be sure. Hopefully you'll find this brief look into Keff's music worthy to give it a second chance and maybe see it in the wider context of the varied and interesting scores of the McCoy era.
Listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.